Chapter 49-38. The little girl's every word seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps of her teeth. But in the end, all her imposing manner was extinguished at this moment. She drooped her head as her eyes turned red and her crisp childish voice sounded choked. I originally thought so, but. She waved Yi-Ching Luo's hand away as she hugged her head with both hands. But I don't want him to be caught. Ling Long ultimately couldn't resist the true desire in her heart. She should have hated Feng Shi. But the moment she thought of Feng Shi's smiling face and the way Feng Shi called her Ling Long, she couldn't raise any bit of hatred. That was her first friend. The first one, whom she sincerely wanted to befriend. Even if he lied to her, she didn't want anything to happen to him. Ling Long's reply made Yi-Ching Luo's smile deepened. Indeed, it was right for her to make this trip. She didn't misjudge Ling Long. Yi-Ching Luo took out a handkerchief and gently wiped away the tears on Ling Long's face as she spoke in a gentle voice. Actually, when Feng Shi left here, she left something for you. Ling Long blinked her eyes. What is it? Yi-Ching Luo stuffed the handkerchief into her palm and pointed to her bed. Ling Long was slightly stunned as joy flashed past her eyes, but there was some uncertainty and hesitation. Yi-Ching Luo smiled and nodded at her. Ling Long remained silent for a moment as she clenched the handkerchief in her hand tightly and walked towards the direction of the bed step by step. Under the pillow, she took out a piece of letter. Ling Long took a look at Yi-Ching Luo as she opened the letter bit by bit. She read every word on the letter word by word. Yi-Ching Luo didn't rush her. After about the time it took for half a stick of incense to burn, Ling Long then folded the letter neatly and raised her head to look at Yi-Ching Luo. You are Shao-Chi. It wasn't a question but an affirmation. Yi-Ching Luo had no intention to hide. Did you see through it, or was it said in the letter? Earlier, when you stretched out your hand to me, I vaguely guessed it. Ling Long pursed her lips. So, you pretended to be Shao-Chi to bring Cece away? Yes. Yi-Ching Luo admitted straightforwardly. Secluded Palace's motive for capturing Cece isn't simple. It's too dangerous for Cece to stay here. I understand. Ling Long looked at the letter in her hand. Knowing that he isn't lying to me or using me is enough. Yi-Ching Luo smiled. I think Cece also doesn't want you to misunderstand her, so I made this trip. She paused for a moment before continuing. Cece is very safe now. You don't have to worry. Cece, he has already left this place, right? Ling Long's distinct black and white beautiful eyes looked at Yi-Ching Luo without blinking, as though she had made some sort of decision. Yi-Ching Luo nodded her head. Ling Long clenched her tiny fists tightly. Then, he stuffed the letter into his pocket. He raised his hands and stretched it out in front of Yi-Ching Luo. Shao-Chi, catch me. Yi-Ching Luo. What kind of operation was this? I'll be your hostage, bring me out of this dark place. Ling Long stuffed her hands into Yi-Ching Luo's hands. Bring me to look for Cece. Hostage? Your Highness, are you serious? Wasn't this train of thought a little too fast? I'm the most pampered princess of Secluded Palace. As long as I'm in your hands, they absolutely won't dare to touch me. You can use me as a hostage and leave this place. Chapter 49-39. Little Princess started to analyze the reason for Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Luo. This child was rather smart. She actually volunteered to be a hostage. But she didn't need a hostage to leave this place. But looking at Ling Long's determined eyes, she looked as though she was volunteering to be a hostage. Yi-Ching Luo really couldn't bear to reject her. She turned her head and looked at Dmo Xian. The black-haired man's thin lips curled slightly as his gaze was filled with love. As though he was saying, you decide. Then, take the hostage away. Ling Long volunteered. Moreover, Feng Shi should also want to see Ling Long. A child's friendship was very pure. It wouldn't be mixed with too many interests and complicated relationship. Yi-Ching Luo didn't wish for Feng Shi to lose a friend like this. And she indeed had some selfish motives. Over at the Secluded Palace, They respected and protected Linglong. It was enough to prove that the mastermind behind the secluded palace valued Linglong. If Linglong was in her hands, at least she would have some advantage. If the mastermind behind the secluded palace wanted to snatch Linglong back, they would definitely give themselves away. The two of them brought along a child as they silently headed towards the exit. The secluded palace's base exit was only the Jiang family's aristocrats' dungeon. It was heavily guarded by the secluded palace's disciples. Dmo Xian could come and go as he pleased. Yiqing Luo was still considering if she could use the blink movement secret art to leave silently. Then, her arm was grabbed by someone and her wrist was placed across a fair and slender neck. Linglong shouted, "I'm a hostage! None of you are allowed to move." Yiqing Luo. This lass, was she really not a spy sent by the enemy? Linglong's roar. Instantly the secluded palace's disciples, who were guarding the entrance, stared over in alarm. Yiqing Luo. She could only hold Linglong as she walked out from the dark. Linglong was still trying her best to display her acting. "None of you are allowed to move. Once you move, she will kill me. If I die, all of you will be buried with me. I am father's most beloved princess. If anything happens to me, all of you will die." Yiqing Luo didn't know how to ridicule. Most importantly, the Nether Palace disciples actually believed it. Secluded Palace's disciples were all filled with vigilance and worry as they stared at Yiqing Luo in panic. "Miss Feng, quickly let go of our princess." How much did his lord value Princess Linglong? They knew better than anyone else. Usually, if Princess Linglong were to knock herself against the wall, she would be punished with the lives of a large group of servants. If they allowed Princess Linglong to become a hostage, and even get injured, just the thought of the consequences sent shivers down his spine. The secluded Darkness Palace disciples were so frightened that they didn't dare to move. Yiqing Luo. This was probably the common saying, being overly concerned would cause confusion. She didn't have any room to play. The man in her arms tugged at her sleeves and whispered, "Let's go now." Yiqing Luo locked Linglong's neck as she slowly walked out of the underground prison's entrance. Mr. and Mrs. Jiang also arrived with hundreds of secret guards. It was a pincer attack. But because Linglong was held hostage in Yiqing Luo's hands, from time to time, he would even shout and scream. Yiqing Luo had a smooth journey as she brought Linglong and left the Jiang family's aristocratic residence. In the dark, Yiqing Luo put Linglong down. The secluded palace's disciples and Jiang aristocrats' secret guards were searching everywhere. Linglong delightfully curled her cherry lips. "I'm still the smarter one." Chapter 49-40. Yiqing Luo leaned against the wall and sighed softly. "You're smart, but have you ever thought about my identity as Feng family's Missy? Will they let us off?" Linglong's complacent smile froze bit by bit. She lowered her head. Did I get into trouble?" "Yes, so. Remember this lesson." Yiqing Luo patted her head. "In future when you think of problems, you need to think more comprehensively and consider all the consequences." Linglong's head lowered even more guiltily. "If you know guilt, then remember what I said." Yiqing Luo pulled her wrist. "Things have already developed to such a stage. You can only be a hostage and follow me back to Feng family." Linglong nodded. After a while, Dmo Xian came looking for them. The three of them headed towards the Feng residence. They just reached the Feng residence. As expected, they saw the secluded palace's disciples and the Jiang family's secret guards guarding outside. But they were just loitering outside and had no intention to barge in. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as she vaguely noticed that a wisp of profound glow was faintly discernible in the sky above the Feng residence. "Is it an enchantment?" Yiqing Luo asked. Dmo Xian nodded. "It should be an enchantment conjured by maternal grandfather." Maternal grandfather. This man, he changed his words really smoothly. The three of them avoided the secluded palace's disciples and approached the Feng residence from the side door. Yiqing Luo was still thinking of ways to send a message out for her maternal grandfather to fetch her. Dmo Xian held her little hand and pressed it on the barrier of the enchantment. The moment her fingers touched it, the profound glow shot out. The three of them entered the Feng residence. Feng family's bloodline can enter, Dmo Xian explained. When Yiqing Luo and the rest entered, Feng family's patriarch who had set up the enchantment naturally sensed it. When Yiqing Luo pulled Ling Long to the main hall, Feng family's patriarch had already welcomed them. Little Luo, are you all right? The old man's eyes were red as his trembling hand stretched out towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo hugged her maternal grandfather and said softly, I'm all right, look at me, haven't I come back safe and sound? The old man pulled Yiqing Luo and sized her up for a while until he was sure that Yiqing Luo indeed had no injuries on her before he was assured. It was at this moment that he noticed Dmo Xian, who was standing not too far away. Xiao Xian is here too. Come here, come here. The old man's eyes lit up as he beckoned to Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo. What kind of name was that? But when he saw Dmo Xian obediently walking to his side, allowing Patriarch Feng to pat his shoulder, listening to the old man's brainwashing greeting, Little Xian is Little Xian, grandfather handing Little Luo over to you was indeed the right choice. Fortunately, you were there, so she was safe. Thank you, grandfather, for your trust. I've said it before. I will protect Lil Luo well. Dmo Xian gave a courteous smile. Good boy, grandfather has always believed in you. Feng family master patted his shoulder again, and his eyes were full of joy. Yiqing Luo, she had no idea what had happened between Grandpa and Ah Xian while she was away. But Grandpa liked Ah Xian so much, she didn't have to worry about how to make her family accept Ah Xian's existence. This is... After Master Feng was excited for a while, he saw the beautiful little girl standing aside and looking around curiously. Yiqing Luo was about to answer, but she heard a crisp little voice coming from not too far away. Ling Long? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-41. A small figure ran towards Ling Long speedily. Ling Long, it's really you. Feng Shi grabbed Ling Long's hand with a face full of surprise. Ling Long's face was also filled with joy when he saw Feng Shi. But the next moment she straightened her face and shook off Feng Shi's hand, staring at him fiercely. Now you know to call me? Why didn't you tell me when you were leaving? Feng Shi's little head drooped. Because you weren't there at that time. You left without a word. Have you ever thought about my feelings? Ling Long bit his lower lip and continued to be fierce. Feng Shi stretched out her little hand to grab Ling Long's hand and said in a weak voice, I left you a message, Ling Long, what if I didn't see it? Feng Shi's little face turned pale as she looked at Ling Long with red eyes. Ling Long, I really didn't mean to, at that time. I had no choice. He hurriedly explained, Sister took a huge risk to sneak in there to save me, I can't drag her down. The fierce look on Ling Long's face faded slowly. She grabbed Feng Shi's hand hard. Next time, do you dare to leave me like this? Feng Shi was stunned and shook her head quickly. No. The two little ones looked at each other and smiled. Children's friendship was extremely pure. It wouldn't be mixed with any interest dispute. Although their positions might not be the same. But, such a pure friendship, perhaps it could change a lot of things. This is... It was rare for Feng family's master to see his grandson like this. He looked like a real child. He stared at Ling Long with some doubts. Yiqing Luo held Feng family patriarch's arm and said with a smile, Children should play with other children, let's not disturb them. She held Feng family patriarch's arm and looked at Granny Feng. Granny Feng, keep an eye on them with the secret guards. When they entered the hall, Yiqing Luo then explained Ling Long's identity. Feng family patriarch's expression changed abruptly. What? The princess of Abyss Palace? Why did you bring her here? Accompany Cece and be a hostage at the same time. Yiqing Luo paused for a moment and narrated the matter of secluded Darkness Palace and Jiang family's aristocrats colluding with each other, and now they were all gathered outside the Phoenix residence, ready to make trouble, in a concise and comprehensive manner. A few pieces of news came down one after another. Patriarch Feng was a little confused. When Dmo Xian sent Feng Shi back, therefore, he only told him to set up a barrier to prevent anyone from kidnapping Feng Shi again. But he didn't expect things to develop to this point. Yiqing Luo supported Feng family's patriarch to sit down as she spoke with a solemn expression. Today's actions should have alerted the enemy. I'm afraid that secluded palaces side will take action soon. With how careful and cunning the Abyss Palace was, once the Abyss Palace took action, the Abyss Palace would definitely be destroyed. The entire God world would definitely suffer a huge blow. It's best to inform Little Uncle's side to be prepared. Yiqing Luo continued. The heavens of the God world were about to change. Everything was as Yiqing Luo had predicted. The various aristocrats in the God realm had started to show signs of being divided. Towards the Feng family, who had been in charge of the God realm for a long time, the various aristocrats had long accumulated a lot of resentment. If the Feng family's acting God Emperor was recognized by the Divine Phoenix and obtained the Divine Phoenix's inheritance, everyone could still accept it. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-42. But unfortunately, Feng Liqiong did not obtain the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix. It was only because of the former Divine Emperor that he had the acting position today. Who didn't want to be above others? Who didn't want to control the entire God realm? When this dissatisfaction and the desire for power, there was a little push. The aristocrats of the various aristocratic families, their hearts began to burn with the fire of desire. The surface of the God realm was calm. In fact, it had begun to develop in an unpredictable direction. It was very obvious to Feng Liqiong that the nobility clan's attitudes toward him had changed. Feng Liqiong received the summons from the Feng family's patriarch and returned to the Feng residence angrily. She heard about the Palace of Darkness again. She was so angry that she almost died on the spot. All of you want my position? Why don't you think about who has been handling the mess in the God realm for so many years? When something happens, all of you hide faster than anyone else. Now you're full of ambition. It's no use throwing a tantrum now. Yiqing Luo leaned back on the chair lazily. Feng Liqiong glared at her. Isn't it all because of you? Logically speaking, the Palace of Darkness's target has always been the position under your ass. Even if it's not now, they will do it later. Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. And by then, I'm afraid you will unknowingly become cannon fodder. Speaking of which, you have to thank me. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled up frivolously as her long and narrow eyes twinkled with playfulness. Let me give you a suggestion. Yiqing Luo chuckled as she enunciated each word clearly. Now, while the Palace of Darkness is just starting, secretly remember those aristocrats whose attitude has changed. And then, secretly mess with them. Perhaps you can sit in this position for a little longer. Feng Liqiong's face darkened. Don't try to talk nonsense with me. I'll dig out that damned dark nether palace right now. If you can dig it out, your position will not be so unstable now. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and slowly straightened her body. Little uncle, you'd better think of a way to win people's hearts and secure your position. Feng Liqiong was burning with anger. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, her eyes were filled with anger. Yiqing Luo's words were obviously questioning his ability. They questioned whether he had the ability to sit firmly on the position of the acting God Emperor. His vision suddenly turned towards Yiqing Luo's side, to that outstanding man Dmo Xian. You, the Imperial Palace's venerable sovereign, right? Feng Liqiong had heard of this name before. the name of venerable emperor. In the lower realm, it was a symbol of nobility and mystery. There were also rumors about him in the god world. It was said that the master of the imperial palace, Dizun, was also from the divine world. Moreover, they were not affected by the boundary, and they could freely travel between the major boundaries. He was a mysterious and unfathomable expert. No one knew where he came from or where he was. Compared to a mysterious force like the Red Clear Pavilion, the Emperor Palace was much more powerful. It was even more shocking. In the past, there had been nobles from the god world who had wanted to recruit them into their forces. Finally, that nobleman's entire family was annihilated. It was enough to prove how powerful this person was. As time went by, even in the god world, no one dared to go near the imperial palace. Feng Liqiong searched for information about Dmo Xian in her mind. Since you want to marry our little Luo, shouldn't you show some sincerity? Chapter 49-43. Feng Liqiong knew about the relationship between Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. It was just that when Dmo Xian went to the Feng family to interact with Old Master Feng, he didn't come back, but from the secret guard of the Feng residence. Old Master Feng couldn't be more satisfied with this grandson-in-law. But he just couldn't stand Dmo Xian. What kind of dog was he, standing out and saying that he wanted to marry little Luo? Did he think that it was so easy to marry a lady from the Feng residence? So what if he was powerful and had a distinguished status? He couldn't even settle a wild chicken like Nether Palace. He was just a waste. This dog Nether Palace, I'll leave it to you. If you can't settle it, don't even think of marrying our little Luo. Feng Liqiong sneered. What nonsense are you talking about? Feng Liqiong threw the teacup over. Don't you want a junior to help you settle your own matter? Don't you have any shame? I'm just testing his abilities. Feng Liqiong said with a straight face. Yiqing Luo almost believed what he said. Get lost. Feng Clan's master glared at his son angrily. Don't think about little Luo and little Xian. I have specially investigated the forces of the Palace of Darkness. To be able to avoid the heavenly way and commit atrocities in the lower realms, almost annihilating the lower realms, and now to be able to quietly take root in the God realm, and quietly instigate so many aristocrats. That's enough to prove that this force is not to be underestimated. Since the other party's aim is the position of God Emperor, you, as the acting God Emperor, should be a good example and settle this matter quickly. Otherwise, give up the position under your butt. Feng Liqiong's words made Feng Liqiong's face turn black bit by bit. By the time the last sentence was said, Feng Liqiong was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, instantly exploded. Give up? You want me to give up the position? Since you can't settle a force that popped out of nowhere, why not directly give up the position? Feng Liqiong didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his words. Give up the position to who? Feng Qing Luo? Feng Liqiong was so angry that she laughed. His tone was filled with ridicule as he squinted at Yiqing Luo. Unexpectedly, Feng Clan Master nodded very seriously. Yes, this position should belong to little Luo. The expression on Feng Liqiong's face gradually stiffened. All of a sudden, Feng Liqiong slammed the table and stood up. Did you make up your mind a long time ago? Do you still think I'm not qualified to be the emperor? Feng Liqiong's anger was unquenchable, reverberating in the hall. The air was tense. There was a moment of silence. Only then did the Feng family patriarch slowly stand up. His entire person seemed to have aged several decades, and his tone was gloomy. It's not that I don't think you're up to the task, but the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix does not acknowledge you. All the generations of divine emperors in the God realm have been succeeded by the successor of the Divine Phoenix. I admit that you've done very well as the acting Divine Emperor all these years, even better than Feng Go. But if you can't obtain the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix, how can you convince the masses? Feng Liqiong's tense mood, in the words of Feng Clan head, loosened little by little. The anger on her face had also dissipated. Feng Liqiong took a deep breath and looked at Yiqing Luo. Now the only way is to obtain the inheritance of the divine phoenix, and suppress those who have ulterior motives. Feng Liqiong's hands, which were pressed on the table, curled up into fists. On what basis are you so sure that she can obtain the inheritance of the divine phoenix? Chapter 49-44. Based on the fact that she is Shao Ji's daughter. Feng Clan Master said each word with great strength. Feng Liqiong slammed her fist on the table again. The sandalwood table broke into pieces and fell to the ground. Feng Liqiong's position was very close to Yiqing Luo. The table shattered and splinters of wood flew everywhere. In the instant that Feng Liqiong swung her fist, Dmo Xian had already stood up and pulled the young lady into his arms. Turning his back, he protected the young lady tightly in his arms. The sawdust hit Dmo Xian's back. Feng Clan Master's complexion changed. Why are you angry? If you can't obtain the recognition of the divine phoenix's inheritance, then it's your own incompetence. Feng Liqiong's eyes were filled with rage. He clenched his teeth as he stared angrily at Yiqing Luo, and then stared at Patriarch Feng. With a wave of his sleeves, he turned around and walked out of the hall. No matter how Feng Clan Master shouted behind him, he didn't look back. This unfilial son, I'm so mad. Master Feng was so angry that his chest was moving up and down. He staggered back and sat on the chair. Yiqing Luo hurriedly went over and placed her slender little hand on Feng family's patriarch's shoulder. Grandfather, don't be angry. If you get angry, no one will be able to protect me. The girl's soft voice reduced Feng Clan Master's anger a lot. Listening to the young lady's words, he squinted at Dmo Xian. Isn't there someone protecting you very well? Yiqing Luo's little hands circled around the old man's neck. Isn't he protecting me on behalf of grandfather? But I still want grandfather to protect me personally. So, grandpa, for my sake, you can't be angry anymore. Feng Clan Master was coaxed to finally show a smile. Yiqing Luo then took the opportunity to say, actually, little uncle is not angry because of the divine phoenix's inheritance. Heod is just too obsessed with the past. Because he cared about my mother, he trapped himself in the past. He just wanted to prove that he wasn't worse than my mother. Feng Clan Master sighed lightly. How can I not know? Feng Liqiong's greatest obsession was that Feng Ge had once ruined everything for a man. He thought he hated Feng Ge. But the so-called hatred was just because he cared too much. He stubbornly wanted to become the true emperor of divine emperors. He wanted to prove that he was as capable as Feng Ge. Therefore, he had been paranoid and had distorted his thoughts. On this point, this made Yiqing Luo think of Zhu Wuxan. Because of his own obsession, that man could no longer walk out of it. Actually, those disloyal nobles are already disloyal. Even if a divine emperor who has obtained the inheritance of the divine phoenix and is acknowledged by the divine emperor appears, I'm afraid it will be of no use. The people of the god world were godlike existences that stood above all the other world. Arrogance, conceit, and complacency were the norm. Obeying the emperor of the divine emperor was just a long-standing habit. However, the moment he harbored other thoughts in his heart, this kind of habit was easily broken. They could be their own masters. Why should he submit to others? So what if he obtained the inheritance of the divine phoenix? Obtaining the inheritance of the divine phoenix is not just to let the people in the god realm acknowledge your existence. Patriarch Feng patted the back of Yiqing Luo's hand. The target of the Palace of Darkness is you. With the divine phoenix profound heart jade, you are the best vessel. If grandfather is not by your side, and Shao Xian is not by your side, what should you do? As long as you obtain the inheritance of the divine phoenix, inherit the position of the divine emperor, and activate the Feng bloodline, you will have enough power to protect yourself. In this way, grandfather can be rest assured. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and collect it. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler and hit me. Chapter 49-45. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips slightly. But, I may not be able to get the inheritance of Divine Phoenix. You can. Feng family patriarch slowly held Yi Qing Luo's hand and pointed at the ring and bracelet on her hand. Before Xiao Gu passed away, she sealed you for thousands of years and specially sent you to the lower realm. To protect you, Xiao Gu must have her reasons for doing this. These are all left by Xiao Gu for you. It is also a symbol of you being her successor. Azure Dew bracelet, Azure Dew 5-piece set. These all belonged to her mother. Yi Qing Luo recalled that she had seen countless times in the Palace of Darkness with her mother's portrait carved on the stone wall. The top was also carved with the pattern of the Azure Dew 5-piece set. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly. That's right, Azure Dew 5-piece set could open the seal to the Emperor God's tomb. And her mother left all these for her. Didn't this already explain everything? But how to get the inheritance of Divine Phoenix, even I don't know. Feng family patriarch's eyes were serious. I think if it is Xiao Luo, there must be a way. The hope in the old man's eyes seemed to place all his hopes on her. Yi Qing Luo couldn't say anything to reject. Grandfather. A mellow and husky male voice spoke respectfully. Diamo Xian stood behind Yi Qing Luo and placed one hand on her slender shoulder. His thin lips curled up as he said firmly, I will accompany Xiao Luo. Feng family patriarch pulled their hands together and patted them lightly. If the two of you can be of one heart and stick to each other, I believe that everything will be solved easily. On the second day after Yi Qing Luo brought the hostage, Linglong back to the Feng residence. A group of people appeared at the entrance of the Feng residence. That was, dressed in black robes, they were disciples of the Palace of Darkness. Surrounded by countless of Palace of Darkness disciples and Jiang family's secret guards, they stood at the entrance of the Feng residence and handed over their visiting cards. Their leader was a man dressed in a luxurious brocade robe. He was dressed in a noble and luxurious outfit. However, the man was wearing a mask, revealing only two eyes that were as deep as the sea. The man was riding a white horse that was completely different from the rest of the team. Behind the white horse was a luxurious carriage. When Yi Qing Luo saw the calling card, she went into a slight blank. Was she seeing things? This is an invitation from the Dark Nether Palace? The Dark Darkness Palace had come out from its hiding place? This was a big move. Incredible! I'm not going. A hand reached out and took the visiting card away, then threw it into the hands of the servant guarding the door. Go and reject him. Wait! Yi Qing Luo's arms encircled that person's waist as she raised her head. Since Secluded Palace has invited us so openly, let's go over and take a look. He was quite curious as to what the Dark Palace was up to. No. Diamo Xian rejected Yi Qing Luo's idea without any hesitation. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes. The gloomy palace had always been hiding in a dark corner. Now, he was walking out openly. There must be a reason behind it. Rather than waiting for death, he might as well go with the flow and see what the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was up to. For this point, Diamo Xian should know this too. But why was he so resistant? Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as she turned her head and looked at the servant who was waiting by the side. Earlier you said, this calling card, who sent it up? Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-46. That person called himself the Palace Master of the Nether Palace, the servant replied. Yi Qing Luo, as expected. This was the reason for Diamo Xian's abnormal behavior. He didn't want her to have anything to do with the Palace Master of the Palace of Gloomy Palace, Gu Jingyu. Gu Jingyu that had once saved her. And the man who turned her into a puppet of Netherworld Palace. He was indeed someone whom Dmo Xian was unwilling to let her get close to. After all, it was a man that she couldn't hate, yet she felt guilty about. Compared to Zhu Wuxin, Dmo Xian was even more worried about Gu Jingyu. Of course, this was not because she had any thoughts about Gu Jingyu. Instead, it was Gu Jingyu's current appearance. It was more or less to soften her heart. However, Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly. If I didn't remember wrongly, Gu Jingyu should be in the Qiao residence in the Earth domain right now, being guarded by the World Group's brothers. Why did he appear here? The Palace of Gloomy Darkness has gotten him out again? Back then, in order to save her, Gu Jingyu had turned himself into a puppet of the Gloomy Palace. Then, the person behind the scenes from Dark Ghost Palace controlled his body. After that, after spending a Herculean effort, he forced the person behind the scenes of the Dark Palace out of Gu Jingyu's body. Therefore, she imprisoned him in the Qiao Mansion. The people from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness had not only gotten Gu Jingyu out, he had also brought Gu Jingyu to the God World. From the looks of it, they were obviously here for her. The current Gu Jingyu. Was it still that puppet from Dark Nether Palace? In any case, you are not allowed to go. Dmo Xian didn't care what Gu Jingyu's motive was. She clasped the young lady's slender waist, and her deep black eyes were a sheet of darkness. Yiqing Luo was just about to say something. Another servant hurried over. "Little miss, the one outside asked me to bring you a message. He said that you'd better listen to what he has to say before deciding whether or not to see him." As the servant was speaking, he was shivering under Dmo Xian's stare, almost on the verge of crying. His voice was trembling non-stop. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hands and blocked Dmo Xian's eyes, glaring at him. "Don't scare me. If grandfather sees this, I'll deduct your impression points." No. Dmo Xian was incomparably calm. "Grandfather wholeheartedly wants me to marry into his family." "Yiqing Luo, are you proud of marrying into his family?" Yiqing Luo pinched his face and looked at the servant. "Don't bother about him, carry on." The servant trembled in fear. "That person outside said that young Miss Feng is living a carefree and unfettered life in the immortal realm. I believe you would like to know how your brothers are doing. If you are interested, let's meet up in the Jiang Manor." Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly congealed. Her long and narrow eyes seemed to be overflowing with light. She knew. Gu Jingyu was referring to the brothers of the World Group. What he meant was, the World Group members were in his hands. Or could it be that he knew about the World Group's current situation and wanted to share it with her? This Gu Jingyu was such a prick, and he tried every possible way to ask her to meet him. What was the reason behind it? He just felt that this was a little interesting. "Don't think too much." Dmo Xian held her chin as he easily saw through the young lady's thoughts. "If you want to know about the World Group's current situation, I can tell you about it. It's not like I'm not bringing you along. What's there to be anxious about?" Yiqing Luo raised her hand and held his arm. "If there's anything wrong, just bring me along and run." Dmo Xian put down his hand, but his brows were still tightly knitted into a bundle. Chapter 49-47. Yiqing Luo's peerless brows were like a painting, her narrow eyes curved as she smiled and stretched out her fingers, smoothing his creased brows. Following that, she glanced sideways at the servant and instructed calmly, "Go out and tell Master Gu that he can keep the appointment, but I'll decide the location." She wasn't silly. He tried every means to meet her. Based on the secluded palace's temperament, there was definitely a conspiracy. She wouldn't be so silly to walk right into the trap. Want to meet him? Listen to her. Very quickly, the servant came back with a reply. Gu Jingyu agreed. Yiqing Luo didn't choose a place that was too far away from the Feng residence. She chose a restaurant under Feng Liqiong's influence, and using her identity as the Feng family's young miss, she asked for a top-notch secret room. Following that, she pulled Dmo Xian along to the appointment. When Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian arrived at the appointed location, Gu Jingyu was already waiting at the entrance. That gentle jade-like face hung the usual gentle smile. A pair of deep eyes stared deeply at Yi Qing Luo, his eyes filled with warmth. So warm that Yi Qing Luo had some goosebumps. When he saw Dmo Xian beside Yi Qing Luo, he wasn't too surprised, as his lips curled into a smile. The relationship between the Overlord and Madame D is really as good as before. His gaze looked towards Dmo Xian, as though he was joking. The Overlord is so worried, Madame D, meeting me privately? Looks like the threat of me to the Overlord is quite high. This is my honor. Dmo Xian gave him a cold glance, indifferently, disdainfully. As though he didn't put him in his eyes at all. It was because of this sentence from Gu Jingyu. Yi Qing Luo was certain. The person in front of her wasn't the Gu Jingyu she was familiar with. He was still that emotionless, with only Gu Jingyu's memories, the puppet of the secluded palace. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly, as she held on to Dmo Xian's arm and said calmly, I'm the one who requested Xian to accompany me, after all. You're from the secluded palace, and I'm from the Feng family, so I'm quite afraid to meet you alone. When Gu Jingyu heard that, he actually laughed. So Madame D is afraid of me too. Of course I am. Yi Qing Luo didn't hesitate at all, for a sinister and cunning rat like the gloomy palace, and the kind that carries poison. Who wouldn't be afraid of being bitten by them for no reason? Ha ha ha! Gu Jingyu laughed even louder. Should I be proud of the Dark Palace? Yi Qing Luo's brows sunk. This Gu Jingyu, who was wearing Gu Jingyu's appearance, said such words. It was like a reminder to her. Because of her, Gu Jingyu became like this. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly as she pulled Dmo Xian into the room and sat on the chair. Gu Jingyu waved his palm and pushed 2 cups of hot tea in front of the 2 people. Yi Qing Luo's cold eyes sunk slightly as she stared at the steaming hot tea. I'm here, not to listen to your nonsense. This consort naturally knows. Gu Jingyu also picked up her teacup and took a sip. Then this consort will get straight to the point. He put down the teacup, tapped the table with his fingertips, and smiled gently. Let's make a deal. Deal? Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, as she stared at that gentle face under the mist of the tea. I and the secluded palace don't seem to have any deal to discuss, right? Yes. Gu Jingyu replied confidently. If there isn't, why would the secluded palace keep on pestering you? Yi Qing Luo's half-squinted eyes revealed a dangerous chill, but that pink lips rose slightly into an arc. Tell me about it. Chapter 49-48. At this moment, Gu Jingyu's lips curled upwards mysteriously as his fingertip tapped lightly on the lid of his cup. Overlord, Madame D, why don't you dare to drink tea? He laughed lowly as his gentle eyes were filled with ridicule and provocation. This is Madame D's turf. Are you afraid that I have poisoned you? The one who is afraid should be you, Palace Lord. Yi Qing Luo gave a cold harumph as she lowered her eyes onto the misty tea in the cup as her lips curled up in ridicule. Perhaps Palace Lord can give it a try, to see if your poison is stronger or mine. Of course it's Madame D. Gu Jingyu replied without any hesitation. Madame D's poison is known as the world's #1 poison. Even Miss Qing Go is unable to resist it, so how would I dare to compare with Madame D? Yi Qing Luo swept her sleeves. It was as though a flame was leaping as it rose up. The young lady's fair palm slapped onto her palm. Profound rays burst forth. The teacup floated into the air as it splashed onto Gu Jingyu's face. The boiling hot tea splashed onto Gu Jingyu's body with a whoosh. Since you know, why are you still playing such tricks in front of me? Gu Jingyu had no intention to avoid it at all. He allowed the tea to soak his luxurious brocade robe. He lowered his eyes as he watched the tea leaves swirling on his robe, but there wasn't much change in his expression. Why don't we pour this cup into Palace Lord's mouth? How about that? Yi Qing Luo's fair finger swept across. She directly took the teacup in front of Dmo Xian into her hands. She stood up as her blazing sleeves fluttered like fire. That exquisite white jade porcelain contrasted with the red flames of the flames. It made that young lady's fair fingers emitted a jade-like luster. She walked straight towards Gu Jingyu. "Madam D, I'm just joking." Gu Jingyu gave a warm smile as he immediately stood up and avoided Yi Qing Luo's outstretched hand. That jade-like fair hand flashed past his eyes. A strange glint flashed past his pupils. It was fleeting. Yi Qing Luo had no intention to force him. She placed the teacup heavily on the table in front of Gu Jingyu. "I was just joking." Saying that, she turned around and returned to Dmo Xian's side. She knew it. As soon as he arrived at the restaurant, he saw Gu Jingyu waiting there. Something bad must have happened. He even wanted to poison the teacup. He wondered if his brain had been kicked by a donkey. Yi Qing Luo sat back on the chair as she raised her brows lazily. "So Palace Lord's visit this time round is to ask me to cure Miss Qing Gu of the poison? No. Gu Jingyu smiled and shook his head. Miss Qing Ji's poisoning is a personal matter between her and the Emperor Lady. If the Emperor Lady is unwilling to cure her, then it's her own bad fate." His tone was very light and indifferent. It was as if Qing Ji's life and death were insignificant to him. Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered with their twists and turns. "Cut the crap, I'm very busy." She stared at Vinegar Jar Emotien's pressure and brought Emotien here, not to listen to his nonsense. This time round, Gu Jingyu didn't keep her in suspense. "The Emperor Lady should already know the reason why Secluded Palace needs you, right?" "I don't know." Yi Qing Luo lazily dug her ears. Gu Jingyu seemed as though he didn't hear anything as he smiled and continued, "Don't tell me that the Emperor Lady doesn't want to see the former Emperor Lord?" It was a simple sentence, but it made Yi Qing Luo's smile suddenly congeal. The emotions in her charming eyes were like a whirlpool, surging with turbulent waves. "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 49-49. "Madam Emperor, you are the key to opening the God Emperor's tomb." Gu Jingyu was very satisfied with Yi Qing Luo's current expression. His smile deepened. "As long as the God Emperor's tomb is opened, you will be able to meet the former Emperor of God Emperor." Yi Qing Luo's brows lifted slightly. Her eyes were deep and serene, like the flowing light of the stars, flickering with a few traces of treacherous coldness. But the expression on her face was calm like stagnant water, without any ripples. "So, the collaboration that you want to discuss is, if you open the God Emperor's tomb, Secluded Palace will let you and meet your mother." Gu Jingyu said the latter half of the sentence. His lips curled upwards, full of confidence, as though he was certain of Yi Qing Luo's desire towards kinship. Yi Qing Luo, this lady, was good in everything. There was only one fatal flaw. That was too much emphasis on feelings. However, everything was different from what Gu Jingyu had thought. When he finished his words, Yi Zichen was stunned. The young lady laughed instead. "Does Palace Lord think I'm very silly?" She pulled Emotien hand, casually fiddling with his fingertips as she raised her brows and smiled. "Since I can open the God Emperor's tomb, why don't I open it myself? Why don't I meet my mother on my own? Why must I bring along this group of people to destroy my mother's resting place?" The young lady said every word. Her tone sounded indifferent and lazy. However, every single word was like thunder, heavily striking Gu Jingyu's heart. Her eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a cold glint. "Palace Lord, you're too insincere. The way to open the God Emperor's tomb, only Secluded Palace knows." Gu Jingyu didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to have such a reaction. "Without Secluded Palace's help, you can forget about meeting the former Emperor of God Emperor in this lifetime." Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a lazy smile. "So what? You? Such a reaction. It had exceeded secluded palace's original expectations. Didn't Yi-Ching Luo want to meet her own mother? How could she possibly reject their suggestion? Yi-Ching Luo slowly inserted her slender jade fingers into Dmo Xian's 5 fingers, interlocking with his 10 fingers tightly. She smiled and raised her eyebrows. I have Xian. Do I need you? Haven't they heard of this saying before? With the venerable sovereign in my hands, the world is mine. Xian was here. Was he afraid that he wouldn't be able to find a way to open the tomb of the divine emperor? After all, Xian had gone to the base of the Palace of Darkness. He had been searching for this method. What was there for her to be afraid of? Yi-Ching Luo's laughter was melodious and mellow, like pearls falling onto a plate, very pleasant to the ears. As she smiled, she raised her eyebrows and looked at Gu Jingyu. However, Palace Master specifically came to talk to me about this transaction. You told me a piece of information. Without me, your palace of gloomy shadows could not have entered the tomb of the godly emperor. After Yi-Ching Luo finished this sentence with a smile, her pink lips curled up even more, as the corners of her eyes added a few long and narrow seductive ripples. Her lips curled up frivolously as she said word by word, So, you're not able to take out something of equal value, so what kind of transaction do you want to discuss with me? Black mist surged in Gu Jingyu's eyes. His gentle jade-like face turned chilly. Palace Master, please leave. She pulled Dmo Xian as she stood up. After you've thought of what to use to trade with me, then come look for me at the Phoenix residence. Saying that, she pulled Dmo Xian as she walked past Gu Jingyu and left the room. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4950. Gu Jingyu sat on the chair in a daze. Until the young lady walked past him. He abruptly regained his senses. He stood up abruptly and turned his head over. His line of sight fell onto the young lady and the man's hands. From the beginning till the end, their fingers were clasped together. Wait, wait. Inexplicably, the voice of stopping had already spilled out from his mouth. His gentle face, at this moment, was filled with a complicated emotion. His deep black eyes stared intently at her hand. The fiery young lady paused her footsteps, tilted her head to look at him, her long and narrow eyes calm and indifferent. Gu Jingyu's throat tightened. He just stared at Yi-Ching Luo, staring at their clasped hands. The bottom of his heart felt as if there were dense needles pricking. He didn't know why he called out to her. He also didn't know why he felt so depressed at this moment. The bottom of his heart felt as if there was a huge net densely covering his heart, making him unable to find the answer to his abnormal emotions. Palace Lord Gu. A cold mellow voice, as if 1,000 years of ice, was transmitted into Gu Jingyu's ears. He regained his senses. In front of him, that fiery red-robe young lady was already in the arms of a man in purple robe, tightly sealed, revealing only half of her exquisite face. That absolute possessive posture, noble and elegant with a threatening tone, please conduct yourself with dignity. The words fell. The man carried the young lady by the waist and walked away. In a blink of an eye, he disappeared in front of his eyes. It was at this moment. Gu Jingyu's body suddenly seemed to be exhausted, as he sat heavily on the ground. Conduct himself? Conduct himself? His gaze and demeanor earlier. What exactly did it look like? Why, the Overlord asked him to conduct himself, and it was that kind of warning and absolute possessive posture. It was as if he had some improper thoughts towards Yi-Ching Luo. Improper thoughts. But that was in the past. The current him should not have any feelings towards her. Why, his heart felt so uncomfortable. Heh! A light chuckle was heard from not too far away. Gu Jingyu suddenly raised his eyes vigilantly. What entered his eyes was a section of fiery red robe. The bright fiery color made his eyes reveal a ray of light. Yi Qing! Before he could finish his sentence, the expression on Gu Jingyu's face gradually froze. That wasn't Yi Qing Luo. Instead, he was dressed in red, but his face was extremely cold. He frowned slightly and slowly stood up. Pavilion Master Chu, how have you been? If this person in front of him was not Zhu Wuxin, who could it be? Chu Wuxin stood in front of Gu Jingyu, his fiery red robe fluttering in the wind. But that cold and arrogant temperament, however, it suppressed the beauty brought about by the red dress. How pitiful! Zhu Wuxin looked at Gu Jingyu and asked, not understanding what he meant. Gu Jingyu frowned. What do you mean? You don't even have the heart to love someone. Pitiful and lamentable. Zhu Wu Xian's voice was cold, and there was not much fluctuation in it. Gu Jingyu frowned even more. At this moment, Zhu Wu Xian glanced sideways at him with an unclear meaning. Are you really willing to give Yi Qing Luo to Dmo Xian? Back at Feng Manor, Feng family's patriarch and Feng Liqiong were in a heated argument. The two children had already been brought by Grandma Feng to a place further away to play. Yi Qing Luo had just stepped into the main hall. She was shocked by the vase which was thrown towards her. Dmo Xian's reaction was swift. He caught the vase with one hand and used the other to pull the young lady behind him, blocking in front of him. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Di Zun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-51. The entire house was in a mess. The return of the two made the quarreling father and son to stop. Yi Qing Luo carefully poked her head out and hugged the vase in Dmo Xian's hands tightly as she walked over. Are you two trying to demolish the house? Don't you know that everything in the house is very expensive? She put the vase back in place and turned to look at Feng Liqiong. Why? The minute I'm not at home, you start quarreling? Feng family's patriarch was about to speak. Yi Qing Luo had already walked over to Feng Liqiong. Uncle, do you want to explain to me, why did you start a fight with grandfather? Feng Liqiong's face darkened, with a, I'm mad, don't provoke me, attitude. It indeed looked scary. Little Luo, don't talk so much with him, his brain is spoilt. Feng family's patriarch gave his son an angry stare. Towards Feng Liqiong's black face, Yi Qing Luo wasn't afraid at all. She walked over to Feng Liqiong and sat down, staring straight at Feng Liqiong. Staring so hard that Feng Liqiong's heart was flustered, as he stared back with a black face. What are you looking at? Look at you now, what do you look like? Yi Qing Luo replied indifferently. If mother knew that you and grandfather fought, she would definitely be very upset. The moment this sentence came out, Feng Liqiong's pupils suddenly contracted. His black face instantly covered with frost. She's upset? If she knew that she's upset, she wouldn't have abandoned the Feng family. If she really didn't care, how would she pass away? Yi Qing Luo's voice was very calm. Uncle, you are the brother that mother values the most, you are her pride, what do you think? Now that you've become like this, what kind of blow would it be to her? You can be angry at mother's desperate actions for love, you can be angry at my appearance, but you can't be angry at grandfather. He is an elder, your father, mother's father. Uncle, this. Not only mother will be disappointed, I will also be disappointed in you. The young lady stared at Feng Liqiong, enunciating each word firmly. That pair of charming eyes, from the original enthusiasm, gradually became dim and cold. She stood up, seemingly utterly disappointed. She didn't look at him anymore. If little uncle feels that he really has to continue like this, that everyone in the world has let you down, and that he has to live like this, I have nothing to say. She walked to Master Feng and held Master Feng's arm. Grandpa, let's go. I want to discuss something about my mother with you. Feng family's patriarch walked out of the messy room under Yi Qing Luo's support. But when she reached the door, she turned to look at Feng Liqiong. Grandfather, don't worry. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled craftily as she winked at Patriarch Feng and whispered, "He will follow along." In the study, Yi Qing Luo asked Patriarch Feng to take a seat. Dmo Xian immediately poured a cup of warm tea and sent it to Patriarch Feng. Just as he sat down, the door of the study was opened with a bang. Feng Liqiong walked in with an air of viciousness. Yi Qing Luo winked at Patriarch Feng. "See," she said, "Feng Liqiong would come." Patriarch Feng sighed helplessly. When he raised his eyes to look at Feng Liqiong, he put on a straight face and said angrily, "What are you following me for? This matter concerns the Feng family, why can't I come?" Feng Liqiong said righteously. Yi Qing Luo patted Patriarch Feng's hand and gave him a way out. "Grandfather, this matter does require Uncle's help." Chapter 49-52. Feng family patriarch's expression eased up, but he still snorted coldly. "It's good enough that he doesn't create trouble, what can he do to help?" Yi Qing Luo smiled as she changed the topic. "I just met the mistress of the Palace of Nether Palace and roughly know the other party's motive." Mentioning this point, Feng family patriarch's expression changed slightly. "The Palace of Nether Palace are getting more and more daring. Now that they dare to come out from the dark, I think they have already made full preparations. According to my guess, the real mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace should be suppressed by something." Yi Qing Luo recalled the last time when the mastermind possessed Gu Jingyu's body. Her brows creased slightly, and now the other party directly appeared openly. "I'm afraid the mastermind has, or is about to, recover his peak power." She had never crossed hands with the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace. But it was only under the situation where his power was suppressed and his body was restricted. When she faced the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace, the pressure was multiplied. Not to mention, the other party was at his peak. Probably not fully recovered. Dmo Xian stretched out his hand under the table and quietly held the young lady's little hand. The warm palm dispelled the young lady's uneasy emotions. If he had recovered, he wouldn't have asked Gu Jingyu to specially look for you to cooperate. The man's words made Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as her eyes flashed. "You mean, the mastermind of the Palace of Nether Palace wants to open the God Emperor's tomb, is because they want to make use of the tomb to recover their own power? Moreover, the other party urgently needs the power of the God Emperor's tomb, so, at this most crucial juncture, he couldn't wait to look for me to request for cooperation?" Thinking of this, it made sense. What did you say?" Feng family patriarch's reaction was huge as he suddenly put down the teacup in his hand and stared at Yi Qing Luo with wide eyes. God Emperor's tomb? The Palace of Nether Palace wants to open the God Emperor's tomb? When this sentence came out of Feng family patriarch's mouth carefully, even Feng Liqiong's expression became extremely tense and unsightly. Yi Qing Luo nodded. "I want to tell you this matter. Palace of Nether Palace needs me to open the God Emperor's tomb." How could they know about the Divine Emperor's tomb? How is it possible to find the tomb of the Divine Emperor? Master Feng was shocked. Feng Liqiong suddenly grabbed Yi Qing Luo's arm. "Secluded palace. Know where the God Emperor's tomb is?" Dmo Xian was just about to stretch out his hand to stop Feng Liqiong. Yi Qing Luo silently shook her head at him, then her vision shot towards Feng Liqiong. The man's handsome face was devoid of any color. A pair of widened black eyes rippled with layers of ripples. The two hands that were clasping her wrists didn't have much strength and were even trembling slightly. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips as she shook her head. "I don't know," the other party only said. "I am the key to opening the God Emperor's tomb, and Secluded Darkness Palace has a way to let me meet Mother." When the last two words left his mouth, Feng Liqiong's body stiffened. Both his hands seemed to have no strength left. Yi Qing Luo's wrist. He slumped into the chair in disappointment. "See, sister? Can I see my sister? He muttered softly as though he was possessed. Although Feng family patriarch was shocked, but he still had some rationality. His white brows knitted tightly. Can the palace of Nether Palace's words be trusted? Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-53. Yiqing Luo touched her chin and pondered for a moment. Generally speaking, it's not trustworthy. And even if what he said is true, if I really agree to cooperate with him, I'm afraid that before I even see my mother, the first thing he will do after achieving his goal is. Yiqing Luo paused for a moment as she suppressed her voice and curled her lips lightly. That's right, kill me. She glanced at the dazed Feng Liqiong and emphasized, no matter if what the Palace of Darkness said is true or false. We don't need to rely on their power to enter the Divine Emperor's tomb. If what the Palace of Darkness said is true, won't we still be able to see my mother after we enter the tomb? Why would we need to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness? But Feng Liqiong, who had been silent, opened his mouth. His voice was very hoarse and his pitch-black eyes stared deeply at Yiqing Luo. Do you know? Where is the Divine Emperor's tomb? Yiqing Luo's pink lips moved, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Feng family's patriarch sighed softly. Back then Xiaogu had already predicted her own consequences, so early on, she had already set up her tomb. An extremely mysterious place that was hidden in all the realms. Even us, relatives, don't know where the Divine Emperor's tomb is. This also led to the rumor that our Feng family has treasures. Hidden treasures of the former Divine Emperor. But, if there were treasures, Feng Liqiong wouldn't have schemed Yiqing Luo in the future. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes as her eyes revealed a certain resolute glint. She opened her mouth and her voice was sonorous. I intend to go to the Divine Emperor's tomb to take a look, perhaps. I can obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance. The young lady's clear voice drilled into everyone's eardrums. Feng family's patriarch's expression congealed slightly as his eyes were filled with worry. Xiao Luo, do you know where the Divine Emperor's tomb is? Feng Liqiong looked at her with a hopeful look. Yiqing Luo nodded, perhaps the rumor outside. And what little uncle is looking for, and what the Palace of Darkness is trying to get. Feng family's treasure is in my hands. The atmosphere was tense. The entire study room fell into a strange silence. After a long while, Feng Liqiong's head stiffened as she stared fixedly at Yiqing Luo. On you? There was a raging fire burning in his eyes. As long as she nodded, in the next instant he would directly. He reached out to snatch it. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change as she raised her brows slightly. Instead, she met Feng Liqiong's gaze and smiled. Yes, it's on me, so. Little uncle wants to snatch it? She was very straightforward. It was so straightforward that the fire in Feng Liqiong's eyes was gradually extinguished. He took a look at DMO Xian, then looked at Patriarch Feng and roared angrily. You have these two people to protect you, what can I snatch from you? I'm just angry. The Feng family's treasure is really on you, and you still lied to me. Previously, I really didn't know what the Feng family's treasure was. Yiqing Luo spread out her hands. Today, it was only after Palace Lord Gu's reminder that I roughly guessed it. Feng Liqiong snorted coldly. Like hell I'd believe you. Patriarch Feng pulled Yiqing Luo's hand. Little Luo, is what you said true? Feng family really has a treasure? Yiqing Luo nodded. If I didn't guess wrongly, it should be something like this, that's right. She gave Patriarch Feng a gentle smile as she held Patriarch Feng's hand. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh young miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-54. Grandfather, Xian and I will go search for the God Emperor's tomb first. Yiqing Luo said. As long as we enter the God Emperor's tomb before the Palace of Darkness, their plans will be completely messed up. Gu Jingyu would come knocking at their door at this juncture. This meant that the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness, they already had a new plan. If they wanted to cut off the Palace of Darkness's ambition, they could only enter the God Emperor's tomb before the Palace of Darkness, to dig out all the secrets of the God Emperor's tomb. In this way, the Palace of Darkness's plan would fail, and they would be able to suppress the Palace of Darkness's ambition. And, as compared to the Palace of Darkness, she was the descendant of the Emperor of God Emperor, the owner of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, the owner of the Azure Water 5-piece set. The chances of winning were higher. No way. Feng family's patriarch rejected without a second thought. Since the Palace of Darkness has already sent out the invitation, that means that the people from the Palace of Darkness have their eyes on you. If you go now, wouldn't it be extremely dangerous? She would think so. The people from the Palace of Darkness would naturally think so too. How would the Palace of Darkness allow Yi Qing Luo to enter the Emperor of God Emperor's tomb? Probably. Following behind Yi Qing Luo silently. After finding the God Emperor's tomb, wouldn't Yi Qing Luo be in danger? Even with DMO Xian by her side, it would be difficult for her to fight against so many enemies. There was absolutely no way to be assured. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly, her smile was firm and had a calming charisma. Grandfather, I understand your concerns. Don't worry, since I've chosen to head to the God Emperor's tomb, I'm already prepared. How could I possibly bear to let someone dirty my mother's resting place? Feng family's patriarch was filled with words to stop her. But when he met the young lady's firm eyes, he was so stunned that he couldn't say another word. His throat tightened. All his unwillingness and worries turned into a long sigh. Grandfather, DMO Xian's mellow voice spoke gently, I will use my life to protect Lil Luo. Whatever you're worried about, I will absolutely not let it happen. He stood up and cupped his fists towards Feng family's patriarch. Bit by bit, he lowered his noble head. Grandfather, please hand Lil Luo over to me. Please, trust us. Each and every word was forceful and sonorous. The heart of the Feng clan master was shaking, and it was pounding. After a long while, he lowered his head. I can't control the two of you. Do whatever you want. Yi Qing Luo smiled and stretched out her hand to hug Feng family's patriarch's neck. She smiled intimately. Grandfather, how can I bear to let you be sad because of me? So, don't worry, I will definitely protect myself. As she spoke, she waved her hand. Mother left me many things. Even after Mother passed away, Mother has always been protecting me. So, you really don't have to worry. The girl's soft voice soothed the old man's worries. In the end, the old man seemed to be convinced. He stared at her with a straight face, amused and angry at the same time. He couldn't keep a straight face. Okay, I'll let you go. Feng clan master covered his face hard with a rather helpless look. After covering it for a while, he moved his hand away again, and his expression was solemn. Little Luo, remember, no matter what happens, Feng family is your strongest backing. I know. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she rested her head on Feng clan master's shoulder. I will meet Mother and obtain the Divine Phoenix's inheritance and return to grandfather's side. Chapter 49-55. I want to go too. Feng Liqiong's expression was cold as her dark eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo quietly. I want to go too. You can't go. Yi Qing Luo raised her head and met Feng Liqiong's gaze without any hesitation. Feng Liqiong's expression darkened. Why can't I go? I just want to go over and take a look. Could it be that you're afraid that I'll snatch away your opportunity and stop you from obtaining the inheritance of the Divine Phoenix? If I were afraid, I wouldn't have said these things in front of you. Yi Qing Luo straightened up and sat down beside Feng Liqiong. She faced Feng Liqiong and faced her questioning gaze. She did not panic in the slightest. Little uncle, it's precisely because I trust you that I'm willing to let you know about these things. I know that you want to go because you want to see Mother. You want to personally ask Mother if she regrets the choice she made. But, she paused. His eyes met Feng Liqiong's, and he could clearly see, when she says that his purpose is only to see his mother. Feng Liqiong's eyes showed clear signs of avoiding his gaze. Even his face was a little red. It was as if he was ashamed of having his thoughts poked out. Yiqing Luo had always known. This little uncle of his. Actually, it was just that the emotions in his heart were hard to calm down. Actually, he missed Feng Ge more than anyone else. However, there was really no way to satisfy his wish this time around. Yiqing Luo sighed softly. Little uncle, the current God realm, under the influence of the Palace of Gloom, is no longer the God realm that you know. If you still want to protect the God realm, to protect this, the God realm that Mother once wanted to protect. As the acting God Emperor, you have to stay. If you leave with me, and the Palace of Darkness finds out, what do you think the Palace of Darkness will do? Feng Liqiong's throat tightened, and she couldn't speak. What would happen to Shadowy Palace? If it was him, he wouldn't be able to do so. They would definitely take the opportunity to start a war. Take down the immortal world in one fell swoop. If the God world became the property of the Dark Nether Palace, I'm afraid the lower realms would also suffer. All the realms would suffer a bloodbath. The consequences were extremely serious. Feng Liqiong's hand on the table clenched into a fist. He pounded the table heavily. Damned palace of gloomy darkness. He gritted his teeth. But he had already calmed down. Yiqing Luo tentatively stretched out her hand and gently placed it on his shoulder. Little uncle, if I can really meet Mother, I can help you to pass on the words you want to say to her. After a pause, she continued, if there is a chance, I will do my best to let you meet. Feng Liqiong clenched her fists even tighter. He clenched his fists so tightly that his fingertips turned white. His joints were protruding. He gritted his teeth and snorted coldly. There was no good answer, nor was there a bad answer. Yiqing Luo looked at him for several breaths and retracted her hand. Her pink lips curled upwards as she gazed at the few of them and said word by word, you guys guard the God realm and wait for us to return. That night, Yiqing Luo used Feng Liqiong's name to call Ji Wuhua and Feng Chongqing over to the Feng residence. As soon as dinner was over, Feng Chongqing was called to the study room by Patriarch Feng for a discussion. Yiqing Luo then pulled Ji Wuhua into the room. Ji Wuhua followed behind Yiqing Luo excitedly, his face filled with excitement. Miss Qing Luo, are you trying to exchange feelings with me secretly? Chapter 49-56. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. She just dragged Ji Wuhua and threw him into the room. The door was shut with a bam sound. Inside the room, it was pitch black. Ji Wuhua got even more excited. Miss Qing Luo, I didn't expect you. I didn't expect you to be such a Miss Qing Luo. But I like it. He. Ji Wuhua's smile was extremely radiant. He opened his arms and closed his eyes, howling at Yiqing Luo. Miss Qing Luo, come on. Please don't pity me just because I'm a delicate flower. You can do whatever you want to do. I can do whatever you want. Hiss, the sound of candlelight was accompanied by the young lady's clear voice. Really, anything? That soft voice made Ji Wuhua's smile even more radiant. He nodded hard. Yes, as long as it's Miss Qing Luo, anything is fine. Then, I'll leave it to you. The young lady said with a smile. Come on. What do you mean? Ji Wuhua vaguely sensed that something was wrong and opened his eyes. It was okay if he didn't open his eyes. But when he opened his eyes, he was shocked. In the room where the candlelight was flickering, there were not only him and Yiqing Luo, and there were two strangers, a man and a woman, sitting on the chair. And Yiqing Luo, who was laughing in the arms of the Overlord. Ji Wuhua. He'd better close his eyes. He felt a death stare staring at him. That was the death stare from His Majesty Di Zun. He was going to die. Just when Ji Wuhua was about to cry, Yi Qing Luo said with a smile, "Lord Flower King, let's start." The 4 words, Lord Flower King, made Ji Wuhua's hair stand on end. He shuddered and stepped back. Okay, what do we do? He was just about to move. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly and her smile became even sweeter. But the threatening look in her eyes was enough to make Ji Wuhua's heart tighten. Of course. Disguise these two as me and Ah Xian. She looked up and smiled at Ji Wuhua. Just now Lord Flower King said that I can do anything. You shouldn't be lying, right? Lie? She was the one who had used her beauty to trick him. Ji Wuhua, I feel wronged, but I can't say it. Not only could he not say it, he had to accept it with grievance. No, I won't, staring at the Overlord's death stare, as well as Yi Qing Luo's death smile. Ji Wuhua was very cowardly. I am the Flower King. How could the most honest person? How could he lie to you? Sob, sob, sob. Yi Qing Luo nodded satisfactorily. Start your performance. Ji Wuhua. Inside the room, there were 2 strangers who were disciples of the Emperor Palace. Their figures and postures were similar to Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian. When the both of them came out with their disguises, they changed into Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian's clothes. If one did not look closely, they did indeed look like 2 different people. However, after all, a fake was just a fake. His mannerisms and actions were somewhat similar. However, his temperament was clearly different. Ji Wuhua was busy for half a day before he finally heaved a sigh of relief as he sat down on the table. What are you trying to do by making 2 fakes? Yi Qing Luo smiled as she passed him a cup of tea. You've worked hard. Ji Wuhua instantly jumped up as though he was injected with chicken blood. He received the tea from Yi Qing Luo and stared at the tea, the cup that Miss Qing Luo touched. The tea that Miss Qing Luo poured for me personally. Sob, sob, sob. He wasn't going to drink it. He wanted to keep it. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please collect it gently. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Di Zun, please collect it gently. Chapter 49-57. Yi Qing Luo's next sentence knocked him down from the peak of excitement. Let's continue after the tea. Ji Wuhua was so scared that he almost dropped the cup in his hand. Continue? Continue what? Yi Qing Luo pointed to her own face and then to Dmo Xian. It's our turn. Ji Wuhua, did you think it was easy for me to disguise myself? Did you think I could easily disguise myself? My hands are sore from tormenting 2 people in a row. I want to go on strike. I quit. Damn, it smells so good. Ji Wuhua resigned himself to his fate as he picked up the tools and started a series of. First, she removed her makeup and removed the alluring face that she had put on earlier. Then, she put on a new pretty face that was more delicate and mischievous. After that, help Dmo Xian to disguise himself. Yi Qing Luo wanted to disguise Dmo Xian as a heroic and mighty man in his 30s. Compared to her, it was like an uncle with a lowly, so sexy and flirtatious. But perhaps Ji Wuhua was intimidated by Dmo Xian's majesty and his hands were trembling. Or perhaps Ji Wuhua did it on purpose. After an hour and a half of disguise, finally, the finished product was presented. Yi Qing Luo's jaw almost dropped. Wow. 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 It was a fair and delicate face. So delicate that it was cute. Her long and slender eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings. His deep blue pupils rippled with a pure and mysterious light that was as deep as the sea. Even the lips were pink and lovely like a rose. Yi Qing Luo's maiden heart was about to burst. Ji Wuhua must have done it on purpose. Ji Wuhua looked at the 14 or 15-year-old young man in front of him and expressed his satisfaction. Such an overlord. Could he still bluff? He only knew how to give him a death stare. He only knew how to scare him. Humph, even if he wanted to scare people now, he couldn't use his majesty anymore? Ji Wuhua's face was full of pride and his little mouth was about to rise to the sky. However, seeing Dmo Xian's face reflected in the bronze mirror, he squinted his clear and limpid eyes as he cast a sidelong glance. Ji Wuhua's complacent smile froze on his face. Shivering with cold, bowing down to the big shot. I was wrong. Ji Wuhua admitted defeat decisively. Dmo Xian curled his cherry blossom pink lips slightly. Wrong, do you know what to do now? I'll help you disguise yourself again. Ji Wuhua straightened his back. Even if I changed my appearance into a cute little girl, the Overlord's oppressive aura and murderous death stare were not weakened at all. It was too scary. Ji Wuhua's small hands trembled as he was about to help Dmo Xian remove the disguise on his face. A fair little hand suddenly stretched out. Then, he blocked Ji Wuhua's movement. The girl's pretty eyes curved slightly, and she smiled with incomparable joy. That's good. I don't need to disguise myself again. But, Ji Wuhua looked at Dmo Xian hesitantly. Dmo Xian raised his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo. That black eyes that were as pure and innocent as the sea were like azure blue gems, sparkling with brilliance. He asked, Do you like it? Like Yiqing Luo nodded like a chick pecking rice. As long as it's Xian, I like it. In that instant, the man's imposing aura, which was overflowing with a vicious aura, suddenly disappeared. That delicate and adorable eyebrows and wrinkles also calmed down. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th young mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-58. Yiqing Luo leaned forward and cupped the man's face with both hands. That's it, no need to change. And I won't exchange. Dmo Xian unconditionally agreed to any request of his darling. Yiqing Luo's glass-like eyes smiled like a crescent moon. This Xian is really cute, so cute that I want to. She hugged the man and said, I want to hide you from others. Dmo Xian's rose-like lips, his smile was pure and clear, even his voice had become compatible with that face, so ethereal that it could cleanse one's soul. So, Lil Luor likes this. Yiqing Luo's maiden heart thumped wildly. Too cute. I can't hold on. I want to hug him. However, as a pacifying boy, she was still rational. After the man said this sentence, she immediately continued, Because it's Xian, I like him. The man chuckled softly. His sapphire blue eyes were filled with a doting and helpless smile. You. She could always make him happy inadvertently. Ji Wuhua, who had been ignored and thrown away after using it, was at a loss for words. Hey, can't you pay attention? I'm still standing there. Was there a need to show off their love in such a deranged manner? That was his goddess. His heart ached. He was struggling internally, and his mind was filled with thousands of scenarios. Rushing forward, pushing Dizun away, and taking back his goddess. But in fact, he only dared to stand where he was, holding his aching heart motionless. That night, Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, together with the barbaric Blood Bone King, quietly left the Phoenix Manor and headed towards the boundary of the God Realm. In the darkness, a few figures were faintly discernible. Right then, on the second floor of the restaurant, a curtain was lifted, revealing a pair of charming eyes. In the dark night, those charming eyes were like the stars in the night sky, dazzling and dazzling. Staring in the direction where the figures disappeared, the girl's pink lips softly clicked her tongue. TSK. I guessed right. The people from the Palace of Darkness were really. He stared at her all the time. He thought that he had made thorough preparations. He didn't expect that he would be exposed before he even set off. The influence of the Netherworld Palace was getting bigger and bigger in the God Realm. This time, they had to speed up. Otherwise, grandfather and little uncle might not be able to hold on for much longer. Xian, no, now I should call you Ayun. The girl smiled sweetly, her eyes like crescent moons. He changed his appearance. Naturally, he had to change his name. Now, her Xian was called Chaoyun to the public. Her name was Muyu. Morning clouds and evening rain. Clouds in the morning, rain in the evening. Day and night, I pass the days together with my son. Say, how long do you think it will take them to find out that those two are fakes? They won't find out. DMO Xian replied indifferently. The map in their hands is half real and half fake. With the Imperial Palace's disciples escorting them, as well as the blood-bone barbaric king's protection, even if it's Gu Jingyu, he wouldn't be able to detect. That's fake. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily in his arms as she used one hand to brush his black hair, but secluded palace isn't stupid. So, we have to be fast. DMO Xian held her slender waist lightly. When dawn breaks, we'll leave. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. 2 days later. God Realm's barren land, in a rather remote village. Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian were resting in a simple tea-house. A pair of men and horses were extremely arrogant as they stepped on the dust. Chapter 49-59. The iron blood horse raised its hooves and trampled on the tables and chairs in the tea-house. Sawdust flew. It almost hit Yiqing Luo. DMO Xian raised his hand to block it. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked at that group of people. A total of 14 people. The leader was a man and a woman. The man's build was huge and strong like a bear. The woman was not bad-looking, but there was a strong aura in her eyes. Both of them looked about the same age, around 24 or 25. The head of the Dark Void Hall is here again, half a month ago. Didn't they just come? Why are they here again? They know that those little brothers have left, so they specially came over to seek revenge? Isn't the Dark Void Hall backed by the Jiang family's aristocratic family? So arrogant, aren't they afraid of causing a backlash from other cultivators? Not far away, the villagers complained unwillingly. But no one dared to stand out. The leader jumped off the horse and kicked the ruined table. Is the boss of your tea-house blind? Why don't you come out and serve? His line of sight swept across. His gaze fell on the seat where Yiqing Luo and DMO Xian were sitting. It was no wonder that he noticed this side at first glance. Mainly, the entire outer shop of the tea-house, because of their arrival, the tables and chairs were all ruined. Their table was the only one that was still intact. Moreover, the other villagers had long shrunk to the side. They were the only ones who were still sitting there calmly. All of you, get up. The leader strode over. This seat, we want it. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes in interest. She didn't expect that in the God Realm. To encounter this kind of evil tyrants traveling. It was said that the entire God Realm was full of awesome cultivators. Any one of them was capable of doing something earth-shattering. Although this group of villagers were just villagers, but they were still cultivators, right? Was it really good to be so cowardly? Could they still behave like a cultivator from the God Realm? If those people from the lower realm saw this, wouldn't they be disillusioned with the God Realm? Yiqing Luo expressed that she was incomparably disillusioned now. I'm talking to you, didn't you hear me? Perhaps it was the first time that the leader had met someone who dared to ignore him. He slapped the table hard. The 2 teacups and the teapot on the table toppled over. Tea was poured all over the table. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes slightly as she looked at the leader. Her charming eyes were calm, her delicate eyebrows curved like the crescent moon. Without the slightest hint of fear, he met the ferocious gaze of the leader. Then, her pink lips curled up bit by bit, revealing a lovely smile. You spilled my tea. What? The leader frowned as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Yiqing Luo was still smiling as she repeated a sentence, You spilled my tea. The leader's eyes were filled with rage. What did you say? The owner of the tea-house immediately came forward. Boss, these two are just passers-by. They don't know the rules. Please forgive them. We've specially prepared a room for you. You can rest inside, rest inside. As the boss was saying that, he signaled Yiqing Luo with his eyes, making them take the opportunity to leave. Old man. The leader grabbed the collar of the tea house owner and lifted him up with one hand. Since they don't know the rules, I'll teach them what the rules are. The profound grade of the tea house owner was not low. At least Yi Qing Luo could sense the strong profound grade aura of the tea house owner. But the tea house owner was indeed easily detained by the other party. Chapter 4960. It could be seen how powerful the Grand Hall Master of Dark Void Hall was. Grand Hall Master, they're just passers-by, please be magnanimous and let them go. The tea house boss couldn't bear to implicate the young couple. So much nonsense, do you believe that I'll teach you a lesson too? The leader impatiently threw a punch towards the tea house boss's face. Ah! A sharp shriek pierced through the sky. The leader painfully hugged his hand as he staggered backwards 2 steps. The tea house boss was suddenly let go. Losing the support of his strength, he fell backwards weakly. But he didn't fall. A fair little hand clasped onto his shoulder. A seemingly soft and slender wrist. But it was able to steadily support his body, allowing him to stand firmly. The tea house boss heaved a sigh of relief while still in a state of shock. Turning his head, he saw that dainty young lady with a sweet smile on her face. He was so shocked that he broke out in cold sweat. Madam Chow. His original intention was not to involve the young couple in this matter. He had not expected. But now, it was this young girl who had lent him a helping hand. This time, how would the people from Dark Void Hall let her off? Grand Hall Master! Cousin brother! A few exclamations were heard from the direction of that group of people. The lady and the other cultivators who were dressed in martial arts attire ran towards the leader. They only saw that the leader's hand, which was about to hit the tea house boss's face, had a hole pierced through it, and water was gushing out. That fiendish face was twisted into a ball because of the pain. It was that young lady who did this? The leader's eyes were sinister as she stared angrily at the direction of that dainty young lady. Do you know who we are? Then, do you know who I am? The young lady's tender lips curled upwards as she gave a light smile. The young lady's question. It made the surrounding people's hearts tighten. The leader's brows creased tightly as she sized up Yi Qing Luo vigilantly, as though she was scrutinizing her identity. If she dared to ask such a question, presumably, the backing behind her must be very strong. The leader pondered for a moment and asked, "Who are you?" Yi Qing Luo's delicate pink lips slowly rose upward. That half-smile, with a hint of mockery in it, caused the leading woman to feel a strange feeling in her heart for no reason. Just as he was about to stop Yi Qing Luo from speaking, he heard that melodious and soft voice, which was like that of a girl next door, enunciating every word. "I am your father." Courting death. The leader's eyes shot out a baleful aura, as the long spear in her hand swept out, directly piercing towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't have the slightest change, instead she was all smiles as she looked at the incoming long spear. His pink lips carelessly spat out words that made people feel ashamed and annoyed. "My good daughter, you're not dead yet. Why would your father seek death?" The moment the spear fell in front of the young lady, an invisible barrier formed by an invisible shockwave blocked the spear. After that, a ray of dark light tore through the sky and descended. Bang! The moment the earth-shattering explosion rang out, a loud sound rang out. The leader of the group fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string, only to see that dainty young lady dressed in a peach-colored long dress was being protected in the arms of a man dressed in a bamboo-colored long robe. The leader of the group clearly saw this earth-shattering dark light oppressive force. It was just that the man had casually waved his sleeves and created it. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Trash 7th Young Mistress. Lord Dizun, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4961. Her eyes widened as she stared incredulously at the tall man. She couldn't believe her own eyes. Yi Qing Luo walked over to them with a light smile. Those cultivators who were following behind were so frightened that they retreated backwards as they looked at her with vigilance. The leader's face turned pale as he stared at Yi-Ching Luo. He recalled that his hand was pierced through by that young lady using something unknown. This was totally ruining his hand. Thinking of this, the leader's eyes turned scarlet as he gritted his teeth and bellowed, "What are you trying to do?" The young lady smiled innocently as she blinked her eyes and spoke in a soft voice. "You spilled my tea and smashed the tea house boss's shop. How should we settle this score?" "You." The leader didn't expect that the other party actually wanted to settle the score with him. The suppressed anger in his chest suddenly sprang up at this moment. "Slut! Are you looking for death?" A paw sound was heard. A gust of hurricane struck and landed a loud slap on the leader's face. That man in the bamboo robe took steady steps as he walked to the young lady's side. A pair of azure sapphire-like eyes revealed a frosty sharpness. "If you insult her one more time, I will pull out your tongue." The man's voice was similar to a young man's voice. Very soft. When he said this sentence, there wasn't much emotion. But there was a kind of, which made one's heart turn cold. They didn't dare to doubt the truth of what he said. The group of people instantly didn't dare to say another word. The young lady was pampered and arrogant as she raised her eyebrows but didn't lose her young lady's charm. "My husband is very powerful. If you guys can't think it through, feel free to find trouble with us. But there's a possibility that this price is your sex life." The last two words. The young lady's tone suddenly deepened as her voice was bewitching and low. The group of people's faces turned ashen. The leader's face twisted. He gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice, "Let's go!" The next moment, the group of people had already disappeared in front of their eyes. A cloud of dust was kicked up. Yi-Ching Luo clicked her tongue. "Hey, don't go, I haven't paid for my tea." After the people from the Anshu Hall left, the shabby village gradually regained its hustle and bustle. Countless villagers who had been hiding in their homes squeezed over. "You two, hurry up and leave." The tea house owner sighed softly. "You are outsiders, so you don't know what happened here. If you don't leave now, when the people from Dark Void Hall come, the two of you, no matter how strong you are, he shook his head. Let's go. Let's go." "If we leave, what will you do?" Yi-Ching Luo smiled. "That Dark Void Hall's people, no matter how I look at them, they don't look like good people. They will definitely not let you off, right?" She looked around at the dozens of villagers around her. "The two of us haven't reached the point where we would sacrifice your lives for our own safety." Yi-Ching Luo pulled Diamo Xian back to her previous seat and sat down. "Why don't you tell us, that Dark Void Hall? What kind of force is it?" The tea house owner looked at the girl's smiling face and felt a little worried. But the young lady was too determined. He had no choice but to sit opposite Yi-Ching Luo as he explained the Dark Void Hall in a concise and comprehensive manner. "Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love." Chapter 4962. Anshu Hall. It was a force that had inexplicably developed 3 months ago. Their behavior was similar to that of a bandit. In any case, everything that should be done, and everything that shouldn't have been done, had been done. Wherever they went, there would be a great wave of carnage. At first, some people wanted to resist. But the price of resistance. Otherwise, the entire family would be buried in a sea of fire in a single night. Otherwise, the entire village would be obliterated. No one could do anything to the Anshu Hall. Because the power behind the Anshu Hall was one of the divine world's 5 great aristocratic families, the Jiang family. Or perhaps, everything that the Anshu Hall had done had been instructed by the nobles of the Jiang clan. The current Anshu Hall had taken root in various places in the God realm. It took 3 months. When Yi-Ching Luo heard that, her brows creased slightly. The nobles of the Jiang family. This made her think of the Palace of Darkness. The Jiangs had long colluded with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. If the Anshu Hall was a subsidiary force of the Jiang clan, this also meant that 3 months ago, the Gloomy Palace had already extended their claws into the God realm. But what is the purpose? The Jiang clan was one of the 5 great aristocratic clans of the Divine Realm. Ruining his own reputation like this, causing his reputation to resent him, aren't you afraid of incurring a backlash from those profounders? The Jiang family's aristocrats, why would they allow the Dark Void Hall to do such a bandit thing so wantonly? Yiqing Luo asked puzzledly. The tea-house owner shook his head. I'm not too sure either. However, I overheard those people chatting while drinking tea here. The tea-house owner paused for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, the people from Anshu Hall seem to be looking for a place. Find a place? Between Yiqing Luo's enchanting eyes, a glint flashed past. However, on the surface, there was still that delicate and innocent expression. Looking for a place? If he's a noble, isn't it just a matter of saying the name of the place he's looking for? They don't even know where they are. The tea-house owner lowered his voice even further. I heard them say that the Anshu Hall is still spread out in every region, even deep in the mountains and ancient forests. Countless people have been planted, all for the sake of finding that place. Yiqing Luo was almost certain now. The existence of the Anshu Hall. It was probably done by the Palace of Darkness. He wanted to find the location of the Divine Sovereign's tomb. However, how could the secluded Darkness Palace be so sure that the Divine Emperor's tomb was in the God realm? Would he be able to find the Divine Emperor's tomb if he searched everywhere in the Divine world? Girl, have you forgotten what happened to you in the Palace of Darkness? Old Man Tsang's voice reminded her in her mind. Yiqing Luo. What? Old Man Tsang said. The stone wall of the Palace of Darkness once brought you to the periphery of the Divine Emperor's tomb. And the Palace of Darkness must have known the scenery outside of the Palace of Darkness through your consciousness. The Palace of Gloomy Shadow is searching for the tomb of the Divine Emperor in such a way. They must be searching for that place that looks similar to the surroundings of the Palace of Gloomy Shadow. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she scoffed in her heart. What a pity, after preparing everything and planning everything, we still can't even find a destination. The tea-house boss saw that Yiqing Luo didn't speak for a long time and thought that she was stunned by the power of the Jiang family's aristocrats. He tried his best to persuade them. 2 customers, now that you know the power of the Anshu Hall, you'd better leave this place quickly. If the Grand Hall Master of the Anshu Hall brings his men over, they will not let you off. That pair of siblings are vicious and merciless, and they like to snatch women and men by force. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. 7th Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4963. You and your husband's looks are too unsafe. As he spoke, he sighed. If it was yesterday, at least there would be a team of young brothers to take you away, unfortunately. Yiqing Luo touched her face. Disguising herself as a pretty girl from a humble family could still be praised as pretty. She really had a good foundation. No matter how she disguised herself, she was still a beauty. Her slender brows rose slightly. Between her delicate brows, there was an unquestionable firmness. I know you have good intentions, but my husband is very powerful, so I am not afraid of whatever Dark Void Hall, whatever Jiang family's aristocrats. Don't worry about us, they can't hurt us husband and wife, and will absolutely not let them hurt you. Finishing her words, the young lady slightly raised her head, playfully winked at the man beside her. Ah Yun, am I right? The man's brows at this time, there was a touch of gentleness and tenderness. Listening to the young lady saying husband, and us husband and wife, his mood was so happy that he could fly to the sky. Hearing her call him that, it felt great. Looks like he had to settle this title as soon as possible. Dmo Xian's eyes drooped, affectionate and affectionate. Yes. What you said are all right. The tea-house boss saw that he couldn't persuade them, and could only helplessly say, "Then both of you have to be careful." Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes twitched, suddenly asked, "Oh yes, you mentioned. A team of young brothers, who are they?" That team of young brothers also had a conflict with the Dark Void Hall? The tea-house boss nodded. Yesterday the Dark Void Hall came to make a scene. Coincidentally, that team of young brothers were resting here. Both sides had a little conflict, and then started to fight. Yesterday, that group of young brothers also taught the Dark Void Hall a lesson. Today the Dark Void Hall's eldest brother and sister came over. I'm afraid they heard that the team of young brothers had left, and came over to take revenge on us. Unexpectedly. Today they had kicked an iron plate again. The Dark Void Hall had been taught a lesson for 2 consecutive days. The Jiang family's aristocrats were probably going to intervene. No wonder the tea-house boss kept persuading Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian to leave. After all, the Anshu Hall had been suppressing their hatred and anger for 2 days. That team does have guts. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a trace of admiration. The tea-house owner said, "That team seems to be a mercenary group. They probably got separated from the mercenary group. I think I heard them mention that they are some people from the World Mercenary Group." The tea-house owner sighed with emotion. As expected, heroes come from the young. I wonder when did such a young mercenary group appear in the God realm. Furthermore, they are filled with righteousness. If they can grow up, they will definitely be able to make a name for themselves in the God realm. Yiqing Luo, did she hear wrongly? Did she hear wrongly? World Mercenary Group? The World Group? How could this be? Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she looked at Diamo Xian and then at the tea-house's boss. "Boss, you just said what mercenary group? Can you repeat it again?" Under the heavens mercenary group," the tea-house owner said. "Yiqing Luo, was it a coincidence? Weren't the World Group brothers still in the Earth realm? How could they possibly reach the God realm? How was it possible for them to fight in the God realm? Unless they were using cheats." Yiqing Luo expressed that her inner heart was in shock, as she couldn't react in time. "Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love and please collect it." Chapter 4964. Yiqing Luo suppressed the shock in her heart. Where did they go? No matter if it was a coincidence or not. She had to chase after them to take a look. What if? Were they really her bunch of brothers? The tea-house boss pointed to a place. "I seem to have heard that they were going to look for someone or somewhere." Yiqing Luo had an intuition. That bunch of people were probably her brothers in the World Group. But she had to settle those 2 pairs of cousins from Dark Void Hall first before she could chase after the World Group. The few of them were talking. "Dark Void Hall. The people from Dark Void Hall are here." Suddenly those villagers who were crowding around abruptly turned around and went back into their own rooms. As though they were facing a great enemy, they all ran away. In a split second, the tea-house, which was originally slightly crowded and bustling with noise, instantly there was only the tea-house boss, Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian trio. But in a blink of an eye, 10 over-cultivators dressed in black robes swarmed up. The ones leading the group, who were being carried by the carriage, were those 2 cousins. "Yo, young lady's guts aren't small, you actually didn't run." The leading lady, LV Ni's eyes were filled with viciousness as she looked at Yiqing Luo venomously. "Run." The leading man, Lu Sanzong, caressed his wound which had already been bandaged as he gave a chilly laugh. "You're rather smart, knowing that you can't run, so just wait for your death here obediently." Those 10 over-cultivators dressed in black robes had already swiftly surrounded the entire tea-house. Lu Sanzong and LV and I walked down from the carriage. Their faces were filled with the complacency of capturing their prey. and the joy of venting the anger in their hearts. Young lady. Lu Sanzong's vision was glued onto Yi Qing Luo's face. The young lady's looks. As compared to those beauties whom he had seen before, she indeed wasn't considered as beautiful. But she had that pair of eyes. Like a fox. Just one look and he felt as though there was a whirlpool in those eyes, sucking him in. Especially when the young lady's charming smile was like a blossoming flower. He inexplicably felt that that face was very attractive. Lu Sanzong stared at the young lady, looking her up and down and feeling disgusted. Suddenly, he gave an evil smile. Young lady, what benefits do you get from following that gigolo? Why don't you follow me? As long as you follow me, I won't hold it against you for your rude behavior just now, and I'll let the people in this village go. As he spoke, he stroked the stubble on his chin with his fingers. There was a disgusting smile in his eyes. That piercing gaze. This made Dmo Xian's expression sunk. His eyes that were pure like sapphires were covered in frost at this moment, and they emitted killing intent. His bamboo-colored robe fluttered even though there was no wind. Cousin, I want that pretty boy. Elvini's greedy voice came from the side. You're so good-looking, and your strength isn't weak either. You're quite suitable to be my gigolo. Both of them had witnessed Dmo Xian's strength. He knew that Dmo Xian was unfathomable. But now they had a helper. Why would he be afraid of these two young people? Lu Sanzong clapped his hands. One for you and one for me. Perfect. He wanted to see for himself. These two seemed to be aloof and virtuous, like banished immortals. After being captured by them, we'll use what kind of face begged them. Just thinking of this scene made him feel excited. Both of their gazes were extremely nauseating. Courting death. Dmo Xian squinted his blue eyes as he looked at Lu Sanzong with a murderous look. He bent his fingers, and a dark glow flowed through his fingertips. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss Who Likes Trash. Lord Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4965. Ah Yun. The young lady's soft voice rang beside his ear. Her fair little hand gently rested on his arm, suppressing the man's irritable breath. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips casually raised. Don't be angry this level. I can handle it myself. She walked gracefully, casually past the man and walked towards Lu Sanzong. Dressed in a pink dress, as if peach blossoms were in full bloom as she walked. It further complemented the young lady's delicate face, revealing a unique beauty of a young lady. Lu Sanzong's eyes were filled with evil. However, just as Yi Qing Luo was about to walk in front of him, the young lady suddenly made a turn. She was already standing in front of LV&I. LV&I was shocked by this sudden turn and took 2 steps back. By the time she regained her senses, her face turned black. Slut, what are you doing? How dare she scare her? She raised her hand and slapped the face that had offended her. You. The young lady's pink lips lightly spat out a word. LV&I only felt a cold flash in front of her eyes. A cold sensation pierced through his skin. Her brain had yet to react. Her body's instincts had already quickly evaded. After LV&I stood still, she saw, the girl in front of him had an evil smile on her face as she stood there. In her fair hand, there was a chilling machete glinting with a cold glint. Her posture was very casual. How dare you covet my man, who gave you the guts? The young lady's eyebrows were curved, as delicate as a flower, but the action of her hand was filled with a fierce aura. Swish! The machete cut through the air, directly chopping towards LV&I's face. There was no fancy action. Directly chopping where the vital point was. Chopping you to death. How dare you covet my man? After changing her appearance, she changed into a sock puppet. Naturally, it was impossible to take out her standard weapon. She couldn't use the glower flame fan. Then she would use the simplest and easiest to use, a big machete. Yi Qing Luo's fierce action made Lu Sanzong's face turn extremely ugly. Ah! With a blood-curdling scream, LV and I covered her injured arm and leaped backward. She painfully turned her head to look at the dozens of black-clothed profound practitioners. Attack! Third Elder Jiang, Fourth Elder Jiang, save me! As soon as LV Ni's voice fell, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed that there were two bursts of murderous intent coming towards her from not too far away. Her expression froze, and she quickly retreated. Bang, bang, bang! A majestic aura exploded in the air. It was as if the air was going to be torn apart. Whereas at this moment Yiqing Luo had already returned to Dmo Xian's side. The invisible profound light exploded and destroyed everything in its surroundings. The entire teahouse collapsed. The ground cracked open. From this, it could be seen exactly how powerful the explosion of the profound light was. However, amidst the explosion of the profound light, with Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo as the center, it was as if a vacuum had been created. Fierce and tyrannical profound light filled the sky. They couldn't even get close to the two of them. Under the whirlwind of sand, Yiqing Luo saw two elderly dressed in Jiang family's aristocratic attire, standing in front of Lu Sanzong and LV and I. The profound qi on those two elderly were sharp, like a lurking poisonous snake, ready to explode at any time. Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then don't blame me for not knowing how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Lu Sanzong looked coldly at Yiqing Luo, his expression sinister. Yiqing Luo leaned lazily in Dmo Xian's arms, her brows slightly raised as she looked at the elderly. So it's the helpers invited from the Jiang family's aristocratic family, it's really so scary. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 4966. The Jiang family's aristocrats really didn't care about their reputation. They had completely handed over their family to the Palace of Darkness. So sure. Would the Palace of Darkness be the final winner? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curved slightly as her lips curled into an extremely faint cold arc. Since young lady knows that this is the elder of the Jiang family, why don't you surrender obediently? Lu Sanzong's confidence was different now that he had a backer. Yiqing Luo tilted her head, a strand of hair fell on her cheek, making her look even more charming. The young lady's red lips rose slightly. The Jiang family is one of the top 5 aristocrats, and now they are actually helping you. I don't know where this wild chicken force came from. She clicked her tongue. I didn't expect the Jiang family's aristocrats to be in such a state now. You. How could Lu Sanzong not hear the sarcasm in the young lady's words? His face sunk immediately as he gritted his teeth and sneered. Young lady, the Dark Void Hall is not some unknown small force, now. You can ask anyone in the God Realm, who doesn't know the prestige of the Dark Void Hall. The Dark Void Hall naturally has the ability to get the support of the Jiang family's aristocrats. Ha! The young lady carelessly snorted. Her eyes were full of sarcasm. Prestige? I think it's infamy? She paused for a moment and laughed mockingly. The Jiang family's aristocrats are also thick-skinned to become the backing of such a force like yours, not afraid of getting into trouble. The young lady's words almost made Lu Sanzong die on the spot. The wound on his wrist started to hurt again. Young lady. The two Jiang family's aristocratic elders who had been silent and pretending to be otherworldly experts finally opened their mouths at this moment. Their eyes were cold and sharp as they stared at Yiqing Luo. At such a young age, it's better not to be too arrogant. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. Both of you are already so old, running over here to be arrogant with a young lady like me, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. The murderous intent in the elder's eyes intensified. Immediately, the two pounced towards them at the same time. Silly girl, if I don't teach you a lesson, you really don't know your limits. Bang! Thick profound energy burst forth from both of their bodies. The surrounding air instantly turned into a hurricane that surged violently. Yiqing Luo took a look at the surroundings, at the houses which the villagers lived in which had been overturned. The cracks on the ground were getting bigger and bigger. It was as if it would split open at any moment. It made people fall into the abyss. Fortunately, the villagers were not weak. They barely managed to avoid the pressure of the surrounding dark rays and hid far away. However, if this continued with how merciless his opponent was, it was only a matter of time before the villagers were hurt. He had to avoid it. Yiqing Luo weighed the big machete in her hand as a wisp of dense light flashed past her delicate brows. She was just about to test the strength of those two Jiang family's elders. He had yet to move. Dmo Xian gripped her wrist tightly. Someone's coming. The man's deep voice rang in her ears. Humans? At this time, in such a remote place, could people still come? Yiqing Luo was just about to ask who it was. All of a sudden, the sounds of all kinds of profound lights colliding could be heard. Immediately, a few figures flashed past the horizon. A few dressed in black, armed with weapons, stood in front of Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. Sure enough, it's you guys again. One of them said coldly. Haven't you been taught a lesson enough? Chapter 49-67. Haven't you been beaten up enough yesterday? Now you still dare to find trouble with us. I knew it, this kind of sinister and cunning people. Yesterday they bowed and bowed to us like grandsons. Today they will seek revenge on these villagers. Luckily we're here in time. A bunch of rubbish, still dare to come here to be arrogant. The young men and women chattered and cursed, instantly turning this dangerous and quiet atmosphere into a hubbub. It's you guys. When Lu Sanzong saw that group of people, his expression turned steely green. LV Ni's expression was also extremely ugly. Two losers. Now you're looking for helpers to take revenge? We will beat you till you call for your father. Brothers attack. After that, a group of people swarmed towards the Anshu Hall's side. The minute they went up, Jiang family aristocratic elderly's expression congealed. A bunch of little dolls, dare to behave atrociously in front of us. The two of them had no chance to deal with Yiqing Luo now. On the contrary, they started to fight with this group of youngsters. Yiqing Luo. Now, wasn't it a good idea to stand here and watch the show? If she didn't help, it would seem as though she was letting down their enthusiastic help. This help. She indeed wanted to take a good look at what kind of training this group of perverts had gone through in the time she wasn't around, and how high were their profound grades now. Which was why they were able to come to God Realm, a place where the big shots were everywhere. They even became the messenger of justice, standing up for others. That's right. These youngsters in front of her were all dressed in black, and when they made a move, they could clearly see the cherry blossoms on their sleeves, as though they were burning in fire. The World Group uniform. These people. Weren't they the group of brothers from the World Group? Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian didn't make a move. The brothers in the World Group were extremely well coordinated. One gaze, one action. They understood the other party's thoughts. After discovering that the two elderly's abilities were extremely powerful, they speedily adjusted their formation. Then they entangled the two elderly so much that they couldn't free themselves. Hence, under the elderly's eyelids, the few of them gave Lu Sanzong and LV&I a beating once again. The kind of beating without any reason at all. The chaotic battle lasted for about half an hour. The old man from the Jiang clan stopped and took Lu Sanzong and LV&I away from the scene. Only a bunch of profound practitioners from the Anshu Hall remained. He had become the captive of a group of young boys and girls. What bullshit Anshu Hall is this? So weak. You're running away? I haven't had enough yet. How boring is this really the God Realm? I feel like he's not even worth a single blow. While tying up the profound practitioners of the Anshu Hall, the young men and women were still bragging in all sorts of ways. It wasn't until they threw all the people into the collapsed tea house that they looked at the villagers who were hiding far away. It's okay, everyone has run away. Hey kitty, where are you going? Suddenly, a voice interrupted the hubbub. Yiching Luo saw a small soft dumpling pouncing into her arms. Sister, just as the little man opened his mouth and spat out a word, he suddenly paused. Her ears, which were hidden in her hair, trembled slightly. Her glass-like eyes were filled with uncertainty as she looked at this extremely unfamiliar face. The young lady's dainty brows curved as her fair hands cupped the little man's face. Aya, where did this little cutie come from? You look so cute. Yiching Luo hugged her into her arms. Chapter 49-68. This is... She intentionally pinched the little boy's head, the ear which was hidden under the hair, and pretended to be surprised. Ear? Is this your ear? The little boy in her arms froze. A pair of watery glassy eyes stared at Yiching Luo's face in a daze. Cat, what's the matter? A lady walked over, looking at the little boy nestled in an unfamiliar young lady's arms. She sized up Yiching Luo in astonishment. This young lady, you are. I moo you. Yiching Luo's long and narrow eyes curved as she replied with a smile. You are what the tea-house boss mentioned. Young brothers? The young lady's eyes were filled with surprise. Indeed, as what the tea-house boss said, you are really so young. She lowered her head to look at the little boy in her arms. You look like 12 or 13 years old, so young and already following the mercenary group to go on missions. You're really incredible. That tone totally seemed to be coaxing a child. Miss Moo. That lady opened her mouth. Just call me you or. Calling me Madame Chow is also fine. Yiching Luo smiled as she looked at the man beside her, smiling warmly. This is my husband, his name is Chow Yun. The lady looked at the both of them in shock. Both of you look so young, you're actually married. Xiao-yi, if you want to get married, we can also get married immediately. A handsome-looking man walked over from the lady's back. That look was so handsome as though it was a perfect work of art carved out by a divine knife. His every action and every word he spoke and laughed exuded the nobility and dignity of a person in a superior position. Xiao Jin. The lady stared at the man. Who wants to marry you? If you don't marry me, who else do you want to marry? The man's jade-like black eyes narrowed dangerously. He suddenly stretched out his hand and locked Yen Xiaoyi's waist, pulling her into his arms, then curled his lips towards Yiching Luo's direction. Madame Chow, this is my wife Yen Xiaoyi. I'm this mercenary group's acting group leader, Qiao Jin. Yiching Luo was puzzled. Why acting group leader? Because our real group leader is currently fighting for our mercenary group brothers. Qiao Jin's brows drooped slightly. However, it was only for an instant. His lips curled up into a smile. That's why I'm the acting commander for now. He waved his hand behind him and said, How did you provoke that bastard from the Anshu Hall? He even forced that bastard from the Dark Void Hall to specially invite two powerful old men over to help him. This time we came back to act tough. Fortunately, we brothers are also very strong. Otherwise, we would have been screwed. As expected of his brother, she had learned the way she spoke and the words she used. Yiching Luo held back the laughter in her heart as she used the most ordinary tone to reply. Other than destroying that Grand Hall Master's hand and slashing his cousin, I didn't do anything too brutal. Qiao Jin, wasn't that cruel? Why do I feel that this girl is a little familiar? However, as she stared at that extremely unfamiliar face, it must be an illusion. Behind him, a few young boys and girls wearing mercenary uniforms walked over. He introduced them one by one. Yiching Luo greeted the few of them and pretended not to know them, pretending to be genuine. After getting acquainted with the World Group's brothers once again, Yiching Luo then shifted her vision towards the tea-house boss and the villagers not too far away. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Seventh Miss who likes trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love. Chapter 49-69. She took out a bag of coins and passed it to the tea-house boss. Take it as my apology to you. The tea house boss hesitated for a moment. On seeing that there were quite a number of villagers behind, he still accepted the coins. Find another place to stay, this place is no longer safe. Even if this place wasn't destroyed by Dark Void Hall. If they continued to stay here, they would probably be harassed by those siblings from Dark Void Hall daily. They were hindered by Dark Void Hall's power, so they didn't dare to resist. In the end, they couldn't escape from the word death. The tea house boss apparently thought of this point as well. In the end, the group of them dragged their families and left this piece of wasteland. All right, now that the matter is settled, we can leave now. Yan Xiaoyi looked at those Dark Void Hall cultivators who were tied up on the ground. These people, let's just leave them here. If they can survive, then it means that they aren't fated to die. That's true. Yiqing Luo's pink lips suddenly curled up in ridicule as a crafty glint flashed past her eyes. But, just betting on their luck, isn't it too easy for them? No matter what, we have to increase the difficulty a little. Yiqing Luo's words were spoken. The world group's gazes all turned over in unison. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly, as delicate as a painting, as she walked towards those people. Tight and tight, she lifted her hand. In her fair little hand, there was a small, exquisite white jade porcelain bottle. Those Dark Void Hall cultivators' faces turned pale as they stared at Yiqing Luo's hand, unable to guess what she was holding in her hand. Following that, everyone watched as that pink-dressed young lady held the porcelain bottle as she walked one round around Dark Void Hall's cultivators. In the porcelain bottle, a transparent liquid flowed out. But it was colorless and tasteless. Dark Void Hall's cultivators' expressions turned ugly. What is this? What are you trying to do? This is a good thing and it's very expensive. Yiqing Luo poured out the liquid in the porcelain bottle as her lips curled up indifferently. I guarantee that it will leave a deep and indelible impression on you till the last moment of your lives. What is that? Yan Xiaoyi was curious as she couldn't help but lean forward to ask. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes craftily. Just some wild beasts and magical beasts deep in the mountains like it more. Yan Xiaoyi widened her beautiful eyes in understanding. TSK? Brilliant, indeed brilliant. The wild beasts and magical beasts in the depths of the mountain had smelled the scent and came over, only to see a group of tightly tied up profound practitioners. What would happen? Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into a smile. All right, we have to hurry and evacuate, otherwise we'll be implicated. The group of people immediately left the empty space. After a while, everyone heard the roars of wild beasts coming from the wasteland. It was deafening, shaking heaven and earth. His roar caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. But then he saw, the girl in the pink dress smiled innocently, as if she had nothing to do with these wild beasts. His heart skipped a beat. Why do I feel like this girl's way of doing things so familiar? That's right, I heard from the tea house boss that you had already left that place yesterday. Why did you turn back today? Yiqing Luo pretended to ask casually. Yan Xiaoyi thought for a while. On the way, I heard someone mention that an elder of some Jiang noble family had come here from afar. It was said that it was to support the people of Anshu Hall. I thought that something wasn't right, so I brought my brothers and turned back. Someone mentioned? Yiqing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes slightly. A bad premonition emerged from the bottom of her heart. Chapter 49-70. Not knowing if she was thinking too much. Somehow, she felt a little strange. How could it be? So coincidentally, the World Group found out that Dark Void Hall had gotten help from the Jiang family's aristocrats? Although Yiqing Luo was certain that her and DMO Xian's disguise was flawless. She didn't just change her appearance. All the aura in her body was suppressed by DMO Xian. Vast water divine relic or the spiritual beast's energy had not leaked out at all. At least, after getting along for so long, the brothers who had great rapport with each other were unable to recognize her at such a close distance. Over at Dark Void Palace, it shouldn't be possible to recognize her. and they specially used the brothers to test her. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her fingertips gently rubbed past her wrist, that piece of flawless white jade. This piece of jade was given to her by Blood-Bone Barbaric King. If something happened to the counterfeit, it would be impossible. Or if it was recognized by Dark Void Palace, Blood-Bone Barbaric King would inform her of the situation through this piece of jade. So, the counterfeit wasn't exposed. Dark Void Palace's people should have placed all their attention on the counterfeit. But, facing Dark Void Palace's sinister and cunning, they only knew how to hide in the dark like a rat. She couldn't help but feel a little worried. A warm and big palm held her little hand from behind. Warmth covered her. It also dispersed the uneasiness in her heart. The man's mellow voice entered her ears, revealing an irresistible magnetism. Don't panic. Currently, your performance is very good. Yiqing Luo's breathing stilled as she nodded slightly. I know. If she was the one who messed up, then it would give Dark Void Palace a chance. No matter what, she had to stabilize herself first. That bunch of people from Dark Void Hall probably won't give up, so unless it's absolutely necessary, you'd better not return to this place. Yan Xiaoyi didn't know what complicated thoughts Yiqing Luo was experiencing right now. She waved her hand at Yiqing Luo. Madam Chow, we still have other matters to attend to. If we're fated, we'll meet again. Yiqing Luo smiled as she nodded. All right, we'll meet again if we're fated. It was rare for her to reunite with the World Group's brothers, but she didn't ask them to stay or voluntarily join their team. She was walking together with the World Group. It just so happened that it was her and Dmo Xian, a man and a woman. It would definitely attract the attention of the Dark Abyss Palace. It was better to split up. Just now, when the few of them were fighting against the Anshu Hall and the elders of the Jiang clan's noble clan, they were all fighting against each other. Yiqing Luo had no choice but to admit. This group of young boys and girls who used to be immature had now grown to a point where even she was amazed. Even though their individual strength was nothing in the divine world, it was still not enough. But they are a team, they have chemistry. Therefore, their combined power was enough to take root in the God realm. The World Group and the others headed towards another path. After walking for a few steps, Yiqing Luo slanted her head and stared at the little one in front of her, who had been looking at her without blinking as she smiled slightly. Little cutie, what's the matter? Your friends are all gone. Kitty Lee's voice was soft as a pair of lively beautiful eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. I'm not leaving. Could it be that little cutie is going to abandon your brothers and leave with me? Yiqing Luo smiled as she rubbed her head. Kitty Lee shook her head and nodded her head. Her little face was serious as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking at all. Chapter 49-71. Kitty. Yan Xiaoyi also sensed that someone was missing. She turned her head and saw Kitty Lee, standing eagerly in front of that peach-robed black-haired young lady. She hurriedly walked over and held on to Kitty Lee's little hand. Let's go. Don't. Kitty Lee shook her little head as she stretched out her hand to grab Yiqing Luo's hand. We can go with this, sister. Kitty. Yan Xiaoyi's tone became heavier as her expression sunk slightly. We still have things to do. Madam Chow appearing in this kind of desolate wilderness, you must have something important to do, don't mess around. Kitty Lee's little ears trembled as her vivid glassy eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi tugged several times but wasn't able to make Kitty Lee loosen her grip. She was a little embarrassed as she smiled at Yiqing Luo. Madam Chow, I'm so sorry, this sister of mine is not very obedient. No matter. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as she shook her head as her palm gently caressed Kitty Lee's head. She's very cute, I like her very much too. Actually, she roughly knew why Kitty Lee would display such an expression towards her. Kitty Lee was her contracted beast. No matter how well her presence was suppressed. Between Kitty Lee and her, there was still some sense. But an unfamiliar face, coupled with an unfamiliar presence, There was totally no sense of connection between the beast and its master. Kitty Lee wasn't certain that she was Yi Qing Luo, but the beast's intuition subconsciously made Kitty Lee unwilling to leave her. Yan Xiao Yi smiled as she held on to Kitty Lee's wrist. Kitty Lee, listen to me. Kitty Lee's little hand held onto Yi Qing Luo's arm tightly as her spirited, beautiful eyes were filled with determination. I want to talk to you about her matters. When Yan Xiao Yi said the word her, she intentionally suppressed her voice and emphasized it. Kitty Lee's pupils contracted slightly. In the end, she let go of Yi Qing Luo and left with Yan Xiao Yi. The two of them didn't walk far. They were whispering something. From Yi Qing Luo's angle, she could see the shape of their lip. Yan Xiao Yi's expression congealed as she suppressed her voice. Mao Mao, now is not the time to fool around. It wasn't easy for us to come to God Realm, and our only motive is to find Qing Luo. Don't create unnecessary problems. Kitty feels that person is very familiar. Kitty Lee frowned. Kitty doesn't know why. Kitty just doesn't want that person to leave, Madame Chow and that young Master Chow, although they don't seem to be much of a threat. Yan Xiao Yi changed the topic. But, you must understand, those who dare to challenge the Anshu Hall, are they really as innocent and harmless as they appear on the surface? She looked at Kitty Lee, as her tone became even more solemn. Kitty, Qing Luo is in danger now, we cannot waste any more time here. Ghost Thief Master has already received news. Miss Feng took her fiancé, and quietly went to find the Feng family's treasures. The Dark Palace has already sent people to follow them secretly, but Miss Feng doesn't know anything. Yan Xiao Yi's tone became even more solemn. Do you know what this represents? Kitty Lee's eyelashes drooped slightly as she opened her mouth weakly. Kitty knows. Miss Feng was their Qing Luo. Now that Qing Luo's whereabouts had been exposed, the Dark Palace definitely wanted to make use of Qing Luo to find the Feng family's treasures. They had to stop Qing Luo before she found the Feng family's treasures. Chapter 49-72. Since you know, then I won't say anything more. Yan Xiao Yi replied, don't drag innocent people into this. Yi Qing Luo roughly understood the conversation between the both of them from the shape of their lip. A surge of warmth started to spread from her heart. Her pink lips unknowingly curled into an arc. Her brows were dainty like the crescent moon. These brothers of hers. They really stepped into the God Realm because of her. All the hard work, struggles, goals, were all for her. To have such a group of brothers who wholeheartedly thought of her. It was her fortune. Madame Chow. Suddenly, a slender figure blocked her line of sight. The figure was short and the pink dumpling attire made that cute little face look even more adorable. But that pair of eyes which were like stagnant water had no waves as it stared straight at her. It really gave her a feeling of shock. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she tilted her head and pretended to be puzzled. You seem to be. Mo Yuing? The pink dumpling looked at her expressionlessly and didn't answer her question. Instead she asked coldly, why are you looking at them for? The icy cold voice was stiff and emotionless. It was still that familiar shadow. She wondered what Xiao Yinyan that fellow was doing. So useless. Still unable to turn the shadow into a real little Lolita. Yi Qing Luo ridiculed in her heart but didn't show it on her face as she smiled. They are pretty. Mo Yuying's brows turned cold as she replied indifferently, don't look at what you shouldn't look at. Saying that, she turned around and walked away. Don't mind her, the shadow is not targeting you. Qiao Jin smiled at Yi Qing Luo as he explained warmly. Following that, he took a look at Yan Xiao Yi and Kitty Lee as his eyes revealed an ambiguous smile. When he turned to Yi Qing Luo, it was a polite and warm smile. Madam Chow, where are you planning to go? Is there anything we can help with? Yi Qing Luo could tell. Qiao Jin was suspecting her identity. Of course, it wasn't because he recognized her as Yi Qing Luo. But he felt that she was related to the secluded palace. It was good to be vigilant. After all, the palace of gloomy darkness was so sinister. Yi Qing Luo's long lashes drooped down slightly as she gave a faint sigh. We intend to head over to the Devil region, I heard that. There's a devil dragon in the Devil region. Demon domain? Xiao Jin was startled. Demonic domain. It was an independent realm that transcended the boundaries of the god realm. It was said that it was like hell. Demons ran amok, and the slaughter was monstrous. No profound practitioner was willing to step into it. These two people actually wanted to go to the demon domain? And to search for the mystic dragon? One had to know that dragons were extremely rare. Other than their Qing Luo, that big pervert who had a dragon. Basically, they had not seen any other dragons until now. It was the same in the demon domain. Yi Qing Luo's voice was rather low and her emotions seemed to have sunk by quite a bit. My marriage with Ah Yun. His father was extremely against it, and later on in an accident. Because of Ah Yun, he suffered a very serious injury and needed the demon dragon's blood to save him. This was the excuse that Yi Qing Luo had long come up with. The imperial palace had made arrangements. She was also not afraid of investigations, because their identities and everything else would become the truth. Xiao Jin went into a blank and immediately opened his mouth. I'm sorry. It's all right. Yi Qing Luo smiled. You should still have a mission, so Ah Yun and I will not disturb you anymore. If we are fated to meet again next time, that would mean that there's really a lot of fate between us. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love for everyone to collect. 7th Miss Who Likes Trash. Overlord, please be gentler with your love for me.